Broadcasts of the City of Neenah Common Council meetings are produced by University Studios of the University of Wisconsin-Fox Valley. Neenah residents can get information about City Council meetings, City Committee meetings, meeting agendas, and other documents via the City website, www.neenahgov.org. Neenah residents can express their opinions about city issues or about these broadcasts by contacting the mayor's office, contacting their city alderman, or by completing the electronic feedback form on the city website, www.neenahgov.org. All public portions of the meetings are recorded in entirety and are not edited for playback.
Good evening, everyone. Thank you for being here. I'd like to open the City of Neenah Common Council meeting for Wednesday, December 7th, 2022. We will start with the clerk calling the roll. Please indicate your presence on your roll call device.
Alderperson Boyette.
Here.
Borchard.
Here.
Hillstrom.
Here.
Lendrum.
Here.
Erickson.
Here.
Weber.
Here.
Skirms.
Here.
Steiner.
Here.
Stevenson.
Here.
Alderman Weber will lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Sorry, my monitor is not seeming to be working. Oh. We'll be starting this evening with the swearing in of a new officer and promoted law enforcement personnel, so I will turn it over at this time to Chief Aaron Olson.
Thank you, Mayor. Thank you, council and staff and family members and citizens. I'm sure that every citizen here is here just for this, so thank you very much for the best attended swearing in that we've ever had. I don't think there's anything else on the agenda for you guys, so really appreciate this. Thank you. Our officers appreciate it too. So tonight, like any other swearing in, is one of my favorite nights as the chief. It's very exciting and just such a pleasure to be here. So, before you stands 3 patrol officers, 2 new sergeants, and 1 new lieutenant. And they all chose to work at the Neenah Police Department for various reasons. And we chose to hire them and promote them because they are good people. We have a lot of options, and we only hire the best of the best with good character. And with that, as you know, we only hire for character. We can train almost anyone to do any job, but you can't train somebody to have good character. So standing before you are 6 people and all of our other officers who are just true people of character. And I am confident that these officers and supervisors will treat every citizen with dignity and respect, which is what we strive for, that we talk about every single day at the police department. Treat people with dignity and respect. Being a law enforcement officer is difficult. Our officers are sometimes placed in extremely difficult situations. Sometimes no one wins in these circumstances. Because of this, it's important for you to know that as your chief, it is that I'm confident in you, I trust you, and I respect you for pinning on these badges tonight. Pinning on these badges is not for the faint of heart. So because of that, I commend you and respect you and will always have your back, as long as you do everything to the law. With that, I would like for everyone here to recognize these 6 officers, if we could applaud them for doing what they're doing. Thank you. This is just proof that we live in a great city. So tonight we're swearing in Officer Erica Geshrai. You take one step forward a little bit. Officer Bryce Sweeney. Officer Brandon Sweeney. Sergeant Rob Ross. Sergeant Sam Santiago. And Lieutenant John Wesley Bone. To start with, Officer Erica is a 19-year veteran in law enforcement. Prior to working for the Neenah Police Department, she was a Winnebago County deputy. She held many positions, was well known as a canine handler, and other things that she did at the Sheriff's Department, and she was very well known and respected, so we're very happy to have you join our team. Erica holds a bachelor's degree from Marion College in Indianapolis, and supporting her tonight is her wife, Kendi, son Tyler, and daughter Riley. And Riley will be holding the Bible during the swearing in, and Tyler will be pinning the badge. Next, Officer Bryce Sweeney. And also, if you guys didn't notice, we have twins here. Thanks for changing your hair. I'm also a twin, so and now we're just bald. So, Officer Bryce Sweeney is currently in the police academy, and he was one of our CSAs. He has an associate's degree from Fox Valley Tech College, and supporting Bryce tonight is his father, Jason, his mother, Tracy, brother, Bailey, and girlfriend, Reagan, and obviously his brother, Brandon. And during the swearing in, Bryce's mother, Tracy, will be holding the badge, and his father, Jason, will be pinning on the badge. And Jason is also a police officer, so I'm sure that's a huge honor to pin on your son's badges. Next, Officer Brandon Sweeney is currently in the police academy as well, and he was also a CSA. He has an associate's degree from Fox Valley Tech, and supporting him tonight is the exact same group of people, other than his girlfriend, different girlfriend, Melissa. So thank you guys for coming here. And Jason will be holding the Bible, and Tracy will be pinning on the badge. So thank you guys. Next is Sergeant Rob Ross, who's been with our department for 9 years. He is currently an SRO. He's a very active member of the department, the SWAT team, Honor Guard team, Bike Patrol, our accreditation manager, which is a task in itself, and many other things, but those are the main ones. And prior to coming to Neenah PD, Rob was a staff sergeant in the United States Army. He attended UW-Milwaukee and then graduated with his bachelor's degree from Lakeland University. And tonight, Rob is being supported by a significant other, Jesse. Daughter Natalie, son Kyler. Thank you guys. And Jesse's children, Alina and Jaden. And Rob's children will be holding the Bible during the swearing in, and Jesse will be pinning on the badge. Next, we have Sergeant Sam Santiago, who has been with the police department for over 6 years and is currently a night shift sergeant and canine handler, SWAT team member, department armorer, and many other things. Sam also does a lot for our department. Sam has an associate's degree from UW-Milwaukee and is working on his bachelor's degree. Prior to starting with Neenah PD, Sam was a sergeant in the United States Army, and supporting him tonight is Sam, his wife, supporting Sam is Emma, his wife. Where's Emma? On this side, Emma. Thank you, Emma. Along with brother Chris, sister-in-law Carla, father-in-law Jim, along with his friends Cooper, Cassie, and Alex. Thank you guys for coming tonight. And during the swearing in, Emma will hold the Bible and pin his badge. Thank you. And last but not least, we have Lieutenant John Wesley Bone, a.k.a. Wes. We call him Wes. who's been with us for 11 years. He was promoted to sergeant in June of 2017 and patrol lieutenant this August. Wes is on the SWAT team, and he has a bachelor's degree from Southern Wesleyan University and a master's degree from Lakeland College. Wes is also a veteran of the United States Army and is currently serves as staff sergeant in the Air Force Reserves. And supporting Wes tonight is his wife, April, son, Isaiah, and daughter, Neenah. Thank you guys for coming. And his children will be holding the Bible, and April will be pinning on the badge. If all the family members who are holding the Bible could bring the Bible up to their loved ones, we will get the swearing in now with it. Shar, if you can come down, thank you. So make sure you put your left hand on the Bible so you can raise your right hand.
Raise your right hand and repeat after me, please. I state your name. Having been appointed a police officer for the city of Neenah, Winnebago County, do solemnly swear that I will support the Constitution of the United States and the Constitution of the state of Wisconsin, and will faithfully discharge the duties of police officer to the best of my ability. So help me God. Congratulations.
You can keep those. Next, we'll have Pastor Brian from Appleton Alliance Church come up and bless the badges. Thank you, Pastor, for coming.
Thank you. This is a high honor and a privilege to do this for all the ways that you serve our community, and it is an honor to be able to serve you in this way. I just want to say, on my way here, I found out I have a left front headlight out. I just found out. So if you get something on the radio about a 2008 Hyundai Elantra, okay, thank you. I had to get that out. Thank you. All right, if you bow with me, let's pray together. Heavenly Father, we ask that you bless these badges in the name of the Father, the Son, and the Holy Spirit. Lord, we are grateful. We are thankful for these brave men and women that you have called. This is truly a calling. This isn't just a job. This is a calling. We thank you for their service, their sacrifice to put their lives on the line to serve this community. We love Neenah. We know you love Neenah. So, Lord, we ask that they would be instruments of peace and justice, and not only bringing people together, but, Lord, restoring and redeeming and healing so much of the brokenness that exists in our world, Lord. These are complex times, and this is a complex job. Would you give them wisdom, steady hands, discernment? Lord, protect them. Be with their families as they make sacrifices so that these men and women may serve in their calling. We thank you. In Jesus' name, amen. Amen.
All right, next, if I could have the family members who are going to pin on the badges come up. All right, family members, if you could do your loved one the honor and go ahead and pin him or her. All right, thank you very much. In closing, Bobby Kennedy once said, "Every society gets the kind of criminal it deserves. What is equally true is that every community gets the kind of law enforcement it insists on." I believe that our community, and rightfully so, demands that our officers and supervisors be some of the very best in the country, and I have confidence that this group of men and women, along with all of the Neenah Police Departments that are standing in the back, working the road right now or at home, are the best, and I'm extremely proud to work for you as your chief. Thank you very much. And to the family, friends, and loved ones and officers, we have cake and cookies and water and soda at the police department. Please go and get a tour and have fun. I have to stay here tonight, but everyone else can go and have fun. So thank you guys very much. Super proud of you guys, and be very safe, all right? Thank you.
We do.
That's enough for this ceremony unless they bring the cake here.
That'll excuse you. Right. I've got PTSD. Boring. Thrilling. Driver. Well,
Aaron, yeah. Just sign up at comedy club. Yeah, good.
Moving on to item number 2 on the agenda, introduction and confirmation of mayor's appointments. Is there any objection to unanimous consent of the reappointment of Kent Powley to the Sustainable Neenah Committee for a 3-year term ending in 2025? Is there any objection? Seeing none, that is so ordered. Item number 3, approval of council proceedings. Approval of the council proceedings of November 15th, 2022 special common council meeting, and approval of the council proceedings of November 16th, 2022 regular session. Is there any objection to unanimous consent of approval of those minutes? Seeing no objection, that is so ordered. Item number 4 on the agenda is the public forum. At this time, I will be opening the public forum portion of the meeting. This is not a public hearing on one issue. The public hearing on the Shattuck rezoning issue was conducted at the previous City Council meeting held on November 16th. In the interest of respect of everyone's time and attention, I would like to ask if there is anyone here who would like to speak on a topic other than the Shattuck rezoning question, that they be afforded the opportunity to do so. Is there anyone here who would like to speak on an issue other than the Shattuck rezoning issue? Seeing no one, I just wanted to afford that opportunity if there was someone who is here. If someone who is here who has not previously had the opportunity to speak on the Shattuck rezoning issue, or has new information that has not previously been shared, or has questions that remain unanswered on the Shattuck rezoning issue, I would invite you to speak. The time limit we have set for the public forum is 2 minutes per speaker, and you will be able to monitor your time on the screen. So if you would like to speak during the public forum on this issue, please come forward and state your name and address.
My name is Judd Stevenson. I live at 632 Reed Street in Neenah, across the street from Shattuck Middle School. I've got a couple of things I want to talk about that I didn't mention before. Tonight, you're to decide whether to approve the rezoning of Shattuck, the site, to traditional neighborhood development, a zoning classification that's never before been implemented in this city. How we got here on this process isn't up for this serious debate, but that's for another time. There are areas in this city that are more suited for this type of multifamily, duplex, single-family, retail, commercial zoning. Yes, T&D allows all of those things: commercial, retail, multifamily, duplex, and single-family. There was a December 2nd thing that was on page 179, 180 of the packet of information, where North Point is going down from 100 to 89 units, and they're eliminating the duplex units and so forth. And I'm just wondering what's going to happen to that vacant space inside that building in 2 to 4 years. I mean, there's going to be almost half of that building is going to be vacant. And what's going to happen to that in 2 to 4 years? Lastly, I want to tell you, I sent to each council member today the list of the people that originally signed our petition. There's 846 signatures of your constituents opposing this rezoning. These citizens have gone out of their comfort zone to voice their opposition to this rezoning. These are your constituents who elected you to office that are now asking to be heard. They're asking you to vote against this rezoning. Thanks very much.
Catherine Nolaria, 732 Reed Street. I wanted to take a little bit of my precious 2 minutes to thank you all so much for listening to us. I know that your patience and your dedication that you've all put forth doesn't go unnoticed. We appreciate you and we thank you. I'm not a mayor. I've never been on a community development committee, and I'm never going to be on city council. God bless you all. But as I thought about how I could get my point across, I have made a couple of decisions in my life that I feel are pretty important, and I've decided to talk a pinch about those to help you understand what I drew from for those decisions. So I didn't move into the first house that I've ever walked through, and I surely didn't buy the first car that I ever test drove. And 100% I did not marry the first person that I was attracted to. I don't need to hold a position in public office to understand that looking at more than one option helps ensure the best decision that can be made. Thank you.
Hi, good evening. Megan Florek, 645 Congress Street. You've seen my words, seen my face. You know what I kind of have to say. I don't have any new information. I have new feedback, and I didn't really prepare anything real specific here. But as I'm sitting here tonight, we all are united in this, in the sense that every single person here, including the school board who's not here, Dr. Pfeiffer, we all love Neenah so, so much. We would not, none of these people would be sitting here if they weren't passionate about this city. And that's what makes it so amazing. That's what makes it so special and so great. And what I'm sensing now as I'm talking to people on all sides in the last week is there's a lot of angst, a lot of animosity, a lot of anger. And quite honestly, my heart is breaking. I am terrified for what's going to come if this vote is pushed through. I think the divide is not something that we're going to be able to easily overcome. This 2023 is Neenah's 150th birthday, and I'd like to really celebrate that in a way that's united. So I'm asking you to please vote no, come back together so that we can go into the next 150 years united on a decision that's best for everybody involved. And if it ends up being this development, so be it, but at least we know that we did our due diligence, explored all the options, and we came together as a community that makes us historically so special. So, thank you.
Nate Gustafson, 1820, County Road II, Fox Crossing. Recently elected to the 55th State Assembly. If I got a petition of 846 individuals from my district all calling my office at once, I would probably want to listen to hear what their concerns truly are. And I think what I've heard a lot about is a lot of the angst and a lot of this feels rushed, and there seems to be a breakdown of communication, not only from the city council, but from the school board. And it sounds like a lot of them aren't even communicating cross paths. So I would recommend that you listen to your constituents here. I know there's quite a great amount here tonight that are opposing this resolution, as well as I think maybe something along the lines of an ad hoc committee may be the best solution going forward to really determine what's going to be best for that piece of land. So thank you very much.
I'm Charles Slower, 119 Loudon Boulevard. 28 years ago, I bought my house, and when we bought that house, we looked at the area. Part of the area was the old neighborhood, the look in the field, and the old trees, things like that, versus a new farm field, a development that was just starting out. And we liked that, and we liked that character. And I liked the schools in the area. My daughter and son walked to those schools every day. And it was nice. And to look and see what is being planned there, to me, doesn't fit the neighborhood. It doesn't fit the area, and it doesn't fit what I think Neenah was about when I decided to buy that house 28 years ago. I would like for you to take and think of yourself in that position. This is something in your neighborhood that they would do. When you bought that house, you didn't know they were going to do that. It just happened. So I would like to have you think about the people that put their heart and soul into their houses, into their families, into the neighborhood, and think about what they feel for this. And moving forward, I think it is kind of rushed, like he said. There's options. Maybe some of those, maybe this might have been the first offer. Like the gal said, do you dance with the first person? Do you take the first car? Do you buy that? I think there's some options that should be looked at. I think the neighborhood should have some input because they're the people that have to live with it. Everybody here probably, a lot of you can go home and it doesn't affect you. It affects all of us, and I would hope you'd take that into consideration.
Going off of kind of what he said, I'm just going to read this to get all my thoughts out. My name is Tiffany Meanier. Yeah. I recently purchased a home at 620 Oak Street. I grew up at 637 Congress Street, where my parents took over my great-grandmother's home. I say this because I have several memories here. As a little girl, I used to walk across the street to Mertz's. Ever since I can remember, the whole area was a great area. It was my backyard. It was my stomping grounds. It has always remained a nostalgic, historical, serene, and peaceful part of Neenah. I want to remind you of Riverside Park, the Neenah Pool, the whole family feel of this entire area. It's a part of town that is known for all of these things and so much more. This proposal will drastically change why most of us live in this area. It will change the stability that we have been so used to. And although some of the Plan Commission, sorry, I lost my thought. To me, it seems though like everyone representing the school district, the city members, the Plan Commission, the mayor, they need to come together to find a well-deserved solution. It's been made obvious to me that the majority doesn't want this. We have worked diligently to have our voices heard. I believe there is a way to open up conversation to more development and a much better and more fitting proposal. Maybe something everyone can utilize, like a senior center, a pavilion, something like that. We've all worked so hard to live in these neighborhoods, and I feel like you need to listen. Thanks.
Hi, Deb Laniker, 631 Winnebago Court, or Winnebago Heights. I bought my house 2 years ago. When I put in my offer, I found out there were 12 other offers, and this is on a 1,200 square foot house. Just before I came here, I was at a support group for women who have different issues. One makes beds at one of the hotels. One works at a Subway shop. Another is disabled. They would love to have a place that they could buy. They would love to have a place where they could rent. On behalf of them, I'm asking you to put your blessing on this development. There are a lot of people here who love this neighborhood, but it's not what the community needs, the larger community. There are so many people desperate for just a little starter home, or coming out of college, they're working here, they can't afford to live here. This is a golden opportunity to put, what was it, about 200 dwellings in an established neighborhood. And they're not aliens, they're from another planet. They're going to be good tenants. They're going to be good homeowners, just like everyone else was when they started out. I bet you every single one in this room rented at some point in their life. There's nothing bad about renters. All they want is a decent place that they can get started and then move up to a home sometime and pay taxes. Thank you.
Hi, Sarah Krampitz, 615 Hanson Street. I didn't prepare any remarks tonight because I didn't plan on speaking. I feel like I've poured my heart out and it hasn't been heard, so what's the point in talking again? But I'm just pleading with you. There are so many, I have heard like 5, maybe 6 people in favor of this, and you have 800 and some signatures saying you're against this. We elected you to represent us. You're not hearing us. Of all the things I never thought I'd be in life, community activist is pretty much right up there near the top. Like, I don't get involved in stuff. I don't put political signs in my yard, but this is too important. And I probably shouldn't even say this publicly, but I don't even have a key to my own house. Like, I know my neighbors know who's supposed to be in the area. It is a safe neighborhood. I have been a landlord to low-income renters, and it is not pretty. I'm telling you. I retired last year because I couldn't take the stress anymore. I couldn't take the constant police calls, the people dealing drugs out of my houses, people trashing my houses. It can be all rosy and you can paint a pretty picture. These are going to be great tenants. They're not. So please, you were elected to represent us. Listen to us, to what we're saying, Don't prove me wrong. Please, I was not going to say anything tonight because I didn't think it would make a difference. Don't prove me wrong.
My name's Joe James. Excuse my voice. I lost it. What's my address? 516 Hanson. I'm Sarah's neighbor. She wakes me up. Remember the optics to this. Like, in all honesty, this is more of a preach than like a plead, because you're all sitting up here, and it's been. I'm the guy who was from out of town, who moved here 15 months ago, bought a house, would not have moved here. I would not have paid here. I put a lot of money down on the top end of the market. I would not have invested that money. I would not have come to Neenah. I love Neenah. Neenah's beautiful. It's a great place. Remember the optics as you sit up here. You have 846 signatures that are saying, don't do this. And you sit there and you ignore. And my guess is this has been in the bag probably for about a year, year and a half, because I'm not from here. I've lived in 5 states. I've been all over the country, and I've never quite seen a more condescending group sit there and not really process. And it's really been an eye-opener for me. I mean, to have a city attorney just say, I don't give, what was the comment? Advice. Nobody came there for your advice. They were trying to hand you a friggin' petition. Excuse my language, that slipped out. My point is, that's bizarre behavior. So remember the optics. Some of you guys are going back up for election. I mean, some of you guys got to go see these people. How much time? Like, I have 43 seconds. This is great. Right? I mean, I'm dead serious. You're going to be in Aldi. I don't know how many guys even live here, you know? And supposedly, like I said, you can smell it. I was a 17-year civil servant. Civil servant meant you serve the people. We just had this beautiful ceremony. Beautiful. Great. I mean, these guys are like, and gals, they're it. And then we're backed up by this thing that just smells. You know, it's backed up. It's really the tale of two cities in the last literally like 5 minutes. Beautiful ceremony. Well, what are you doing? You're ignoring your city. And that falls on not even really you, because it's all been brought to you, I think. Have a nice day.
Angela Van Bogart. I own the Cape Cod at 702 Reed Street, which was once located at 747 Reed Street until the Neenah School District uprooted the house, moved it across the street for the baseball fields. So our property has been negatively impacted before by the school district. Today I'm actually here to defend those baseball fields and the school building themselves. I am happy to see the building itself preserved, but I would like to see the entire property preserved as the Shaddicks envisioned it, rather than how the school district wants to cash in on it. I do not want to see houses crowding Reed Street. I want to see the families that I see every day working from home, playing out there, using those fields, the only ones like them around in our neighborhood. I don't want to see houses without yards crowding the streets, with no yards, and having their grills, their swing sets, and other things obstructing the beautiful view that we have in the neighborhood. For middle-class people, their home is the vast bulk of their net worth, including my family, and I do not want to see my property values go down. I have had 2 area real estate agents come to my property, and I've had a professional appraiser appraise my property, and all have said that our property value will go down regardless of the statements that Community Development Director Chris Hazey is quoted as saying in the Neenah News. In fact, someone who was interested in our house declined to purchase it upon learning of the upcoming development. So I know our property has become less desirable with the proposal that is in front of us. Lastly, I just want to mention, I sent an email to the Community Development Board, did not receive a reply. I have 50,000 customers that I am responsible for replying to. I'm disappointed that I did not get a reply from, and just being one of 30,000 people in Neenah.
Nancy Cranpitz, 957 Grove Street. I'm just going to follow up on what this gentleman said. I, too, wrote an email, well thought out, sent it to the Plan Commission, and I had no way to get to the individual, but I did get one little response saying I've received it. I also sent it to all of you and the mayor, Mr. Erickson, and Mr. Steiner and Ms. Erickson were the only ones that replied, despite the fact at the end of my email, I had specifically said, please acknowledge you have received and read my email. And what I went on to say was, Wilson School is 73 years old. What are you going to do when the school district says, we're done with this school? 73 years old, the new addition to it is 69 years old. I know that because I started at Wilson School as a 4-year-old. What are you going to do when the school district comes to you and say, okay, we want to sell this and we want to have another rezoning in this area? What are you going to do when the same thing happens at Horace Mann or Coolidge? These are all getting to be old schools. So I feel badly that I put a lot of time and thought into my message to you people, and you did not have the courtesy to respond to me. 2 calls to the mayor's office. One was returned by an associate this afternoon. The other one went unanswered. I don't think you're listening.
My name is Judy Stevenson. I live at 632 Reed Street. I am the keeper of these signatures that you keep hearing about, all 846. Just so you have an understanding of how we receive these, we had people going door to door, and we also had a petition on change.org. This was filtered down to people that were just in the city of Neenah. So if you have any questions, I'd be happy to answer them or provide you the backup with all of these signatures. These are the people you represent, and they want to be heard. Thank you.
Mark Nofke, 637 Elm Street. I want to back up her claim that these were verified. I did hear through where I work that some of you don't believe that these signatures were verified. We have done our research, and other people in the community also don't believe it. But you do have to believe it. They are verified. And the other concern I have is hearing that the notarized petition was first turned down until maybe the news got a hold of it, and then you guys changed your mind today. That also seems kind of fishy. Thank you.
My name is Katie Cunningham. I live at 848 Higgins Ave. This is Calvin Hughes. We were walking to school today at Wilson, and I told him we have to go to another boring meeting tonight. And he kind of said, why, Mom? And I said, it's because they want to put apartments in that school where you go to the circle track to ride your bike and walk. And he said, I don't like that. I would tell the world that's no good. And I asked him if he wanted to come up here and ask you to please save his circle track. We want a place to be able to gather as a community. I don't think this is appropriate for the neighborhood, and I think families like us and all of you are going to majorly lose out in 10 years when you look back and realize you could have had something really special, and instead it's just a bunch of low-income housing. Thank you.
I'm Valerie Splickerber, 603 Chestnut Street. My husband and I bought our home about 18 years ago. It was as old as you can imagine. 1930 hadn't been touched in years and years and years. And we put thousands of dollars into renovating, fixing up our beautiful home, making it our forever home. Last year, sadly, when we found out the information that's going forth now, we did call a realtor and think about leaving our forever home. Our realtor said, man, got a beautiful home here, but if you want to sell, you better sell now. The value will go down with apartments coming soon. We have thought, and every day I ponder, is it time to leave our beautiful home in our beautiful community? Please don't make me leave.
My name is Edward Palmer, 416 Pine Street. I encourage the council to vote yes to rezone this area. This area has been home to me for over 25 years, and I love this area. I would love to see Shattuck turn back into its glory that Mr. Shattuck proposed years ago. That is a beautiful building that can be restored and refurbished to a beautiful apartment building. It'll be more attractive than it is now with adding the windows and be more historic than it is currently. Currently, the traffic pattern around the area is bad. I live on Pine Street, and my driveway is on Washington Avenue. Try to get on my driveway at 3:30 in the afternoon is impossible with Shattuck and St. Margaret Mary's released at the same time. The new traffic pattern will be a lot less. Traffic during those peak times will be more dispersed, more traffic throughout the whole day instead of at peak times. I don't want to see Shattuck sitting empty for a long period of time. An empty building encourages vandalism, graffiti, theft, and possibly homelessness. A chance to build a new house in this established community would be a wonderful thing for families that are moving to this area. This is a mature neighborhood that has wonderful things with it. I encourage people to move into this area, and I encourage you to vote yes to rezone this. Thank you.
Chris Payette, 675 Chestnut. Good evening, everybody. You've seen me here before, and I've written several letters, probably about 40, and sent them to all of you, although I think Ms. Erickson, I get a bounce back. They don't seem to deliver, so I just wanted to say that. I've sent them to the Planning Commission and the Parks and Rec Department. I've been present at city government meetings, as you know, you've seen me. Taking vacation time from work when needed. We had a 10-foot sign on our lawn asking the city to work together with us, the neighborhood's homeowners. For all that expenditure of energy, sharing of ideas, and passionately pleading to be heard, sadly, I can only report that I only heard back from one person. For the record, that's so disappointing to say the least. Thank you, Mr. Steiner, for contacting me. Much appreciated. But tonight, there is a chance to change all that and begin a new chapter by working together to determine what this 27 acres can become. The school district has been derelict in their duty to care for this property and the Shattuck family legacy for years. It's why we find ourselves here with such a big decision on our hands. We have an opportunity tonight to make a caring decision, one with very long-term impact, to be much better stewards of this beloved neighborhood than the school district was. Please do not vote yes to the rezoning. Give us a chance to work together. Thanks.
Hello, I'm Alexander Collins, 331 East Wisconsin Avenue. This was originally 5 minutes, so it's going to be really chopped down again. I previously quickly spoke at the Planning Commission meeting on why you shouldn't want renters like myself in your community, habitual renters, that is. But that discussion's not for tonight. Tonight, I just wanted to go over why, disabuse people of this idea that it's been actively marketed for 18 months. It has not, and we can just use the Superintendent Pfeiffer's testimony at the Planning Commission meeting. She was asked, was it marketed? Her answers were very enlightening because she basically said something to the extent, and it's in the meeting minutes, that the referendum constituted an informal notice of the sale. Really? Developers around the U.S. and Wisconsin are looking at Neenah referendums? Seriously. And she also said something about, oh, well, they call us all the time, and if anybody was interested, they would have called and talked to us. The only solicitation, if you Google it, will be July 22nd of this year, long after the North Point was put in motion. And then secondly, there's our developers. We've informed developers, and they were surprised within Neenah that this existed. They just thought, just because it's not advertised doesn't mean that it's for sale. And there was one that was trying to race to get one together. But I just want to quickly close since it's already 37 seconds. But here's the real point. We do have a way out. It's a vote no for now. Then let 3 months. Let the developers come up with an alternative package. With as few preconditions as possible, with a stipulation that no rezoning will take precedence over rezoning proposals. If you did that, you'd deflate a lot of the ire in this crowd tonight. Not all of it, but a lot of it. And will North Point walk away? I doubt it. They got rejections in Palatine, Illinois, but they played Energizer Bunny. They kept going and going and going, and they got another development in Palatine. So they're not going to run away, and if they do, they probably had no intention of doing it. Thank you.
Hi, I'm Tamara Haas, 301 East Wisconsin Avenue. There were a lot of unanswered questions from the developer at the Planning Commission meeting. He did not answer questions specific to the tax credits that this developer was going to use for this property despite being asked. He was asked if he could commit to 55+ low-income senior housing, and he refused to make that commitment. What kind of tax credits is he going to use? It's likely that he's going to use tax credits from the state for homeless people to be put into these apartments. It is also likely that he's going to put recovering drug addicts into this community from tax credits to be able to fund the project that he's talking about. There's been no discussion as to whether or not the types of crimes that would be prohibited from people having in their background in moving into these apartments. They only do background checks once. He alluded but did not commit to an absolute annual background check for every person moving into these apartments. There's also no restriction in Neenah on where sex offenders can live. There are a number of sex offenders that currently live within a close proximity to both St. Margaret Mary School and Shattuck School. It is likely that that number would increase. I have been told by our mayor that it is unreasonable to assume that higher calls for service do not mean a higher increase in crime. I'd like to share with you why I believe that these increases in call service are also unacceptable. And I'm going to apologize because I'm going to go over time, so I'm going to beg for somebody else to allow me their moment. Less than 50 feet from my home, a 2-year-old child had her throat slit open by her father as an apartment renter. When my child was 7, I had to scream at him to stop from going out the back door because there was a SWAT vehicle tank from the city of Neenah blocking the drive and there were SWAT officers in my bushes with rifles pointed across the street at the low-income people living in the apartment across the street. There was a woman who had to have her children removed from her house that lived there also because she would take ambulance rides once to twice a week to the hospital. I watched one time where that happened twice in one day because she refused help. I had a neighbor aggressively knock at my door because a woman was sitting naked on her stoop in my neighborhood. I reluctantly called 911 and asked for service and went to this woman's aid. She claimed to have been raped. I worked with the officer on the phone to try to get height, weight, color, clothing, description, hair color, haircut, and took all of these notes with the 911 operator encouraging me to do so. I had met friends later that night for a movie outside at St. Margaret Mary School. You know what? That woman lied. She stabbed herself. It was all self-inflicted and caused that fear. I have real fear. I'm not a fear monger. These are things that have happened to me, to my family, and to my children. Our world has gone through COVID, and it's been horrible for all of us. I'm a middle-aged woman, and I am now the third widow living in my home. I lost my husband this year to cancer at 51. I have 3 children, and this community has been the rock in my world. These people who aren't here, are the ones that have kept me standing, that have kept me strong, and have loved me, and I love them. Please don't destroy this wonderful community, because once you open the floodgate on this property, there will be more calls for service. There will be more crime. I don't want that. So one of the main objections that has been given for wanting to go ahead with this is that there's no other offer for this property. There's been nothing else for you to look at. Well, here, I have it. I'll buy it. My offer is that I will pay exactly what North Point has offered. I will continue to allow the Neenah Joint School District to have their clinic in it with the exact same language that is in the North Point offer. My offer will have no inspection contingencies, no appraisal contingencies, no loan approval contingencies, and I'll allow the school district to continue to operate until the end of their school year and close on it June 30th. I will not ask until after I own this property for any type of rezoning. I will not ask to save the building. I will not ask to tear it down. I will not ask anything of this board until I own it. And then I'm going to ask you, my neighbors, my friends, and I will ask them, and I want us all to be involved. That's what these people have been asking you. Let's talk about it. Well, you know what? I'm a put up or shut up kind of girl, and I'm putting up.
Kathy Tunn, 700 Chestnut Street. I had no intention on speaking tonight. You guys have seen me speak before. But on the heels of that wonderful speech she just gave, I have been the victim of an arson fire in an apartment building. 25 years ago, October 30th, 1997, the people who lived across the hall from me were completely approved to live in the apartments. Both the husband and wife were ex-Navy SEALs. Well, guess what? They knew how to start a fire without a trace. I lost everything. I walked out with my cat in my pajamas. It was 5 o'clock in the morning. I was displaced for a month. I lived in a hotel. I had to rely on the Red Cross for vouchers, for clothing, for food, for my medications. This is my fear of this building turning into an apartment. I begged my husband to move back to Neenah. We lived in Menasha for 11 years. 11 years. I begged him to come back here. We were willing to pay the higher taxes. I wanted the neighborhood that we're in. I was in real estate for 20 years. I toured this neighborhood for 20 years. I wanted in. We finally got in, and now, 5 years later, here we are. I'm staring at a very responsible bunch of people who need to make the right decision. Not for me, but for all of us. Please don't put us in harm's way. Apartments invite trouble. Thank you.
Okay,
Chris Erdman, 1140 Manor Drive. Just want to, I got involved in this by in July 2022. I had finally received a call back from NAI Pfefferly, and they informed me that the materials for the Shattuck property weren't available, that they were under revision. I finally did receive the materials for the Shattuck School property on July 25th, 2022. When you go and look in the CREXI database, it is noted that the listing was added on July 22, 2022. It was only added on the day that I had inquired about the availability of the listing. I think that a lot of people have the misunderstanding that this property has been available for sale for, I don't know, some people say 2 years, 18 months, et cetera, but it has not been publicly available until then. I'd like to, I don't know who I give this to provide this evidence for you. I also want to note that the south of Loudon part of the property that's been for sale was part owned by the city until December 21st, 2021. It's unclear why the city donated a section of the property to be included in the sale. I also have a copy of the deed. Also, there's some question about what Shattuck's intentions were. I had referred to this previously, but I do have Shattuck's actual remarks here that I will provide to the city council members. But there is specifically on page 3 a discussion of there was a joint meeting between the park board and the school board last fall. It was unanimously agreed that the school board should have exclusive control of the property not only during the school year but during the summer months when these grounds shall be used as a public park and playground. This action is based on the principle that divided responsibility is unsound. It was further agreed between the two boards that one member of the park board shall be invited to meet with the Board of Education during the season, etc. There was a collaboration between the two. So I wanted to leave these with you and then overall encourage you to keep an open mind about the possibilities for this Shattuck School property. It could be incredibly great for everybody, and going through a process engaging with the community will make it only that much sweeter when we get to the other side with something we can all be proud of. Thank you very much.
Clerk.
Okay. Want to start the clock then, or 0 remaining? So, okay. Good. Okay. Scott Becker, 1061 Green Acres Lane. I want to know what the city wants to remember 10 years from now. This week, our great ice rink was one of the 10 best in the country. Considered Central Park, Boston Commons, Rockefeller Center. We got all kinds of national press on that. I noticed this story now has been picked up by Yahoo News. It was also the first story on WFRV and its 4, 5, 6, and 10 newscast. I know we have members of the media here, and I can tell you that I've talked to numerous people, and it's like, this is something on their mind. And when does this become a national story? When does it become a regional story? And what does that say about Neenah? And what does it say about the people in Neenah? And how is that going to help development? I think there can be consensus. I think we have a lot of smart people. We have a lot of great people, like Chris Hayes worked on the plaza to make it. We have a mayor who loves the city, who loves the hysteria of the city. Can't we all work together with the school board and everyone here to make the best we can? That's all I have to say.
Hello, Steve Spanbauer, 314 East Wisconsin Avenue. Thank you for the time today. I grew up in Neenah. I grew up pumping gas on Main Street at my dad's gas station. I might have pumped some of your gas when I was a kid. I love this town. I grew up, I moved away for 20 years. I lived in Milwaukee, Minneapolis, Tampa, Florida, and came back to Neenah because I love the city. I love the people, right? Growing up and now, I have great trust in the local government and what you guys are doing. I think there's probably a couple of reasons people run for office. I don't think it's for the money, right? I learned what you guys make. You guys need to make more. I mean, seriously, we got to look at this. But the reason I think most people run for government is, first, they came to a meeting like this, and they sat back here, and they felt like they weren't being heard, and they got frustrated. And they said, I'm going to do something about it. I'm going to run for office, right? And the second reason, I think, is because people feel like they've learned a lot in life. They've had some good luck, they've done some things, and they want to give back to the city. So you run for that reason, too, to give back. Again, I know it's not for the pay. You're giving to the city, right? You're probably making less than minimum wage when you look at all the hours and time you put in, and thank you for doing that. But the challenge is, right, you've got an issue here. I am all for, what you see here today is the tip of the spear. There's a lot of people here. It's not just the neighborhood. When I did some research on this and I started talking to people, it's not just the people in the neighborhood who are upset. It's not just them who are scared. It's the rest of the city of Neenah as they find out about it. It's Fox Crossing, as you heard about today. It's the town of Neenah. There's people all over the area who are really concerned and growing, to his point. So working in private business and leadership in private business for years, one thing that always frustrates me is people who come and tell me they don't like my idea. What's your idea, right? That's okay, this is us. What do we do together? My recommendation is, for the city, you're trying to do the right thing here. In my opinion, the right thing to do is to vote no today. What'll happen is this goes back to the school district. The school has an opportunity then to work with the community, to explain why we're doing things, to work with Chris and the plan to understand that better. Most importantly, in talking to people, there are a number of developers who want to purchase the land. There are a number of developers who would like information on this, local developers who weren't aware of it. And I think we deserve to give them they deserve that opportunity to take a look at it. Even North Point, if I were Andy, he's a businessman, but I can't imagine he wants to go into a neighborhood that really does not want him there. That's got to be very difficult for him. It's not fair to Andy either. My suggestion is give this back to the school, vote no today, and working in federal contracting for many years, what the Army does, what the Air Force does, what the Navy does, is they have a developer day. Invite the developers in for a day, explain to them some opportunities, some options, and let them know they can come back in 3 weeks with their plan. And you've got, which is a great opportunity for the community too. So again, I'm trying to come with a solution, trying to bring the city back together a little bit. I know you want that. I know you want that. Right? So with that, I want to thank you for your service. I want to thank the police department. Great job. That was great today earlier. And also for the offer today. You had an actual offer here, and I know I've heard there's a couple others coming in. It's really cool what happens when the city comes together. Thank you very much.
Hello, my name is Luis Lavalle. I live on 636 Reed Street, and I cannot tell you that I've been living here my entire life. I just got here a year and a half ago. But the reason why my wife and I bought the house on Reed Street is because it's a wonderful neighborhood. As soon as we moved in, my neighbors were there within hours, and they opened up their arms and embraced us, and they have been nothing but wonderful. And then I heard about this, and I listened to the reasons, and yeah, apartments, you know, the idea that is on the table is just not a good idea. And you see all these people, 800 signatures, that say, we don't want this. And I also heard some people that said, no, we are for it because we don't want a vacant lot. Well, the lady has an offer. He has offers. Now you have plenty of offers. So my request to you guys is today is say no and see what they have to offer. North Point is not the only offer. And keep this neighborhood the way it is, the neighborhood that I've learned to love in a year and a half. So thank you for your attention.
Phil Florick, 1140 Lynn Rose Lane. I wasn't going to come up here and talk because I've been in front of the city council some years ago with the smoking ban that I introduced to Neenah at that point. And that point, the council had the opportunity to be the first small city in the area to have the smoking ban enforced in their city. As you know, this council, with their wisdom, decided in favor of the smoking ban. It followed with Appleton, and then it followed with the state. That was an idea and an effort by all the council people at the time. Some of you were here. It was a tough chore. I tell you, I emphasize, you know, I've gone through this. I lost a lot of sleep. I lost patience over the process, but I knew it was the healthy thing for the city of Neenah. This zoning can be put on hold. You can study it. Please vote no and do the right thing as your predecessors did with the smoking campaign some years back. Thank you.
Quentin Meyer, 915 Terracotta Drive. I'll be honest with you, I heard about this for the first time about 2 hours ago when I was Christmas shopping with my daughter. Literally, I'm at the home store in Appleton. My little girls are in the cart, one's running around, and I'm like, my mom told me about it, and I started reading. I was like, wow, who thought that this was a good idea? Low-income housing in a nice area like that. I've been a landlord to low-income housing. I'll tell you, it's a nightmare. Police calls, random drug dealing, all sorts. Man, I don't know how much I want to get into on that, but it is a nightmare. It is something that is going to destroy the area. And I send my daughter, and hopefully my other daughter, who's almost 2, to St. Margaret Mary's right over there. And I'm telling you, I don't think I would feel comfortable sending my daughters to that school knowing that there is 186 there. I don't know what the actual number is. I saw a lot of different stuff online knowing that there's that much low-income housing over there, just from my experiences. I've born and raised in Neenah. I love this place. I never want to leave. I've traveled the world as a Team USA competitor in powerlifting and for my career, and I just don't want to go anywhere else. I love it here. As a matter of fact, when I first started dating my wife, she was from Kaukauna, and once she moved in, I found out that I don't lock my doors and she does because she didn't grow up here. I would get locked out of my house all the time because I was just so uncomfortable leaving my house unlocked. I can tell you right now, everybody over in that neighborhood, once that's done, is not going to feel that way about leaving their house unlocked, knowing that that's across the street. And that's what I have to say. Thank you.
Hi, I'm Lori Lavalle, 636 Reed Street, and there is a place for this kind of housing. When I lived in Cincinnati, there was similar development made, but it made sense. It was in a location where there were bus routes, there was grocery stores, there was fast food that you could walk to. So people had that kind of walkability. Where we live now, there's not that. You can walk to the library, but besides getting books, there's not much you can do. You can't walk to Kroger's. You can't really walk to Walmart. There's no little grocery stores. The location doesn't make sense. What we're asking is just to give us time. Whatever decision you make now is not a decision that in 2 years we can, oh no, this wasn't good, we can change it. The decision you make is going to change our neighborhood, change our lives, change the lives of the next generation as well. Just give us time. We want to work with you. We want to make Neenah better. But right now, this is not going to make Neenah better. And like people said, there's a lot of animosity that's growing because people are not feeling that they're being listened to. Show us that you're listening. Just give us time. I don't know what the terminology is that you guys can do if you can just come back in 3 months. We don't want an empty building. We don't want it long term. We just want time so that we can talk to developers, get an idea of what can be done, and move ahead. Thank you.
Is there anybody else who would like to speak in the public forum portion of the meeting? Seeing no one, the next item on the agenda is consideration of public forum issues. At this time, I would like to respect those who are attending tonight's meeting, and I would like to entertain a motion to move up item 8 on the agenda. That is the reports of special committees and liaisons and various special projects and committees.
I move to approve the agenda adjustment to deal with item Roman numeral 8 at this time.
There's a motion.
Second.
By Alderman Stevenson, seconded by Alderman Boyette. All those in favor, please signify, or do we need a? Okay. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
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 Are there any opposed? Before we receive the report of the Plan Commission in agenda item number 8, at this time, I would like to invite a Deputy Director of Community Development, Brad Schmidt, to give a brief explanation of what the two items on the report, items number 1 and 2, relative to the Shattuck property, just a brief explanation of what those two items are to help give clarity to those voting on those two items. Brad Schmidt?
Thank you, Mayor. So yeah, there are two action items tonight related to the project. The first of which is an amendment to the city's comprehensive plan, a future land use map amendment. So the purpose or the rationale for the change to that future land use map amendment is because of the school closing. Currently, that property is identified as community facility designation with a proposal to change that to the residential neighborhood investment area, which is what the surrounding neighborhood is. The proposal is not directly tied to the development proposal that you see tonight with the rezoning, meaning the approval of a future land use map amendment does not approve the development. So that's the first action item. I think what everyone is really here tonight is for the rezoning of to the traditional neighborhood development. So basically the approval of the rezoning to traditional neighborhood development and the associated development plan means the project can move forward. So that's basically the regulatory document that would allow for the development to happen. With that development, it's not only just the rezoning to the traditional neighborhood development, it includes the master plan, the master development plan that I will talk about in a little bit. What you see on that master development plan is what is being proposed. There's conversations that different land uses could happen and things like that. Not if this plan gets approved. What you see on that plan with the land uses is what would move forward. Any changes to that plan or any additional land uses that would come forward in the future would have to come back through this process. So those are the two action items that are on the agenda tonight related to Shattuck.
Thank you. So considering the action on item number 1 on the agenda is an administrative change that is required in response to the change in use of the school property, I'd like to request that Alderman Steiner now report out on item 1 from the Plan Commission report.
Thank you, Mayor. The regular Plan Commission meeting met on November 29th. Minutes can be found on the city website. Item number 1. Commission recommends council approve ordinance number 2022-20, adopting the amendment of the City of Neenah Comprehensive Plan Update 2040, relating to changes in the future land use map for land along Division Street, Elm Street, Reed Street, Birch Street, and Loudon Boulevard, Shattuck Middle School, and I so move.
There's a motion by Alderman Steiner. Is there a second? There's a second by Alderman Lundrum. Is there any discussion, any need for clarification on this item? Alderman Boyette.
Yes, ma'am. Excuse me. Director, either one, Brad or Chris, could you clarify exactly what that does, excuse me, for the potential future use of R2, TND, or commercial, or any other zoning?
So, you know, the comprehensive plan is a general guide for the future development of the city. My argument for bringing it into the residential neighborhood investment areas, that's what the entire, basically everything east of South Commercial and on that side of the city is, and basically every single-family residential neighborhood is. So from a zoning standpoint, the residential neighborhood investment area allows for different zoning categories. But I will say that the comprehensive plan is not regulatory. It's not set in stone. It's a dynamic document. It's really meant to help guide what future land use is in that area. Looking at what other possibilities could be out there from a future land use perspective, there's really nothing else that fits on this site that would be appropriate for that land use. So you look at industrial, you look at commercial, that's not what would happen out here. So again, because of the closure of the school, we feel that it's appropriate to modify the comprehensive plan to show what the future land use should be.
So let me, if I, maybe I can even get simpler. So the comprehensive plan overlays the entire city, and we identify appropriate, very broad appropriate uses, as Brad mentioned, industrial, commercial, residential. This particular category is essentially residential. We're doing it because of the closure of the school. As a community, it's no longer a community facility. It's no longer, will no longer be a school, so it's no longer a community facility. And as Brad mentioned, not a regulatory document. What controls what will actually happen on the property is the zoning classification. So this underlying zoning, in this case R1 single family, still remains. It's just a land use designation.
So that triggers another question then. So if this were to pass and one of these other offers were to come in and say they want community garden, would that be allowed if this passes?
Yes.
But not commercial?
Not by right.
Okay.
And again, the land use classification is not regulatory. It's the underlying zoning. So even though the land use is changing, the underlying zoning at this point remains R1 single family. So any of those uses that are permitted uses with an R1 would be allowed. Anything that is not allowed in R1 would not be permitted. So by changing the land use, as an example, you couldn't allow a commercial use.
Or duplexes or a fourplex or
correct. With this, again, that would be a designation of the zoning. So if, as an example, if the zoning were changed from, if we changed the land use, which is proposed, and now decided to rezone the entire site from R1 to R2, now duplexes would be allowed, but not under the zoning that still remains even with the land use change.
And if this were to fail, and someone else came in later and wanted to change that, would they be able to?
They could. What I would caution is if this fails, the land use is supposed to be in conformance with your comprehensive plan. So if we keep it as a community facility, that land use, in theory, the only things that should happen there would be those community facilities, park, school, church, perhaps. That's, I don't know if church is resident, but park and school would be about it. Any, a municipal building like this, in theory.
Unless someone that purchases it comes in and asks for rezoning, right?
Well, the rezoning again is we're simply changing the land use, so they're two separate things.
So this plan cannot be changed after today, is what you're saying?
The land use plan really is irrelevant to some degree with the underlying zoning. The categories of land use are quite broad, where they get very specific and where the regulations are within the zoning category itself. So the overlying land use is a guide. The underlying zoning is the rules. So we are changing the land use, which is a guide, the zoning would dictate what the regulations are relative to that.
And then just one follow-up. I'm just curious, because we haven't had any discussion on it. So why is that?
Well, it was in front of the commission. It, as the mayor mentioned,
Well, it went before the plan commission, but this is the first that the council has really had it in front of them. So I'm just curious, it didn't go to any thing per se for the alderman, it went to the plan commission.
the mayor, as the mayor mentioned, I don't want to minimize the effort, but it really is an administrative, for lack of a better term, housekeeping because of the closure of the school.
Thank you.
Alderman Stevenson.
Just to dovetail on that, thank you, Mayor. So the ordinance 2022-20, which is Chris refers to as the land use document, does not require a 2/3 majority, I'm assuming?
That's my understanding, yes.
So if ordinance 2022-20 passes, in essence, we've done an administrative land change designation. Nothing changes the zoning. The zoning issue is dealt with in ordinance 2022-21.
That is correct.
So let's be clear on that. So if 2022-20 passes and 2022-21 does not pass, Northport cannot move forward with their development plan.
Correct.
Are there any further questions? No, I'm sorry. This is the time for us to be asking. Is that clear to all the aldermen? You know that you're voting on basically an administrative change from the land use because of the closing of the school, so changing the comprehensive plan use we're required to do because it is no longer a school on that site. Okay. Any further questions? Please cast your vote on your voting device. That motion passes 7-2. At this point, I would, before Alderman Steiner continues with the report, I'd like to ask Deputy Director of Community Development Brad Schmidt to give a quick overview of item number 2 on the agenda.
You, Mayor. Apologize. I guess you can kind of read that on your screens. So basically what I want to do is kind of explain some of the changes that have occurred since when this project was originally proposed during the public hearing at council a few weeks ago. So the top plan is what was originally proposed. So you had 36 single-family lots, 8 duplexes at 16 units, 16 townhome units, 100 multifamily units, a 2.9 acre open space, and a 1.5 acre stormwater pond. So this is the plan that was originally introduced. At the Plan Commission, the applicant had proposed to remove the 4 duplexes north of Loudon Boulevard and south of the school, as you can see in blue, and replace those with single-family lots, and then remove the 4 duplexes south of Loudon and replace that with additional green space. After that meeting, the developer had a conversation with some of the residents and made further concessions to reduce some of the units. So the 2 areas circled in purple is a reduction in the number of units in the apartment and the elimination of the townhomes along the north side of Loudon Boulevard. So below is what the actual plan is that is in front of committee or council today. So I just want to kind of go over some of the details of that plan. There are currently 49 single-family lots that are proposed as part of this development. I know there's been some confusion on who's building these houses, who are they for. the intent of the developer is to be the developer of these lots, to create the lots, not to build the houses. These are not associated with the low-income tax credit property with the apartments. These would be marketed and sold as any other lot that is developed in the city. In addition, the number of dwelling units within the school has been reduced from 100 to 89. The open space on the south side of Loudon Boulevard has increased from 2.9 acres to 4.1 acres with additional access along Loudon Boulevard, and the larger stormwater pond remained 1.5 acres. So a couple of other changes that have occurred. There was a small playground associated with the multifamily portion of the project that has been relocated to basically Elm Street. It used to be sort of just south of the school next to the old historic building. In addition, I think there were some questions on the off-street parking. So there are a total of 207 off-street parking spaces designated for the apartment use and for the medical clinic use. Per the city's ordinances, the required minimum off-street parking is 167, so they do have, at least in this plan, roughly 40 extra parking spaces. As we had mentioned at the last meeting, there are some minor changes to the two existing parking lots at Shattuck Middle School. And those changes basically are to add an additional buffer between both Elm and Reed and the parking itself. With that, that'd be additional landscaping and things of that nature. And then just as we saw in the first plan, all the, or most of the access to the single-family homes will be via a private driveway, a carriageway, if you will, behind the houses, with access to the houses from the rear as opposed to the front, with the exception of several houses on Reed Street and one on Elm and one on, or two on Loudon Avenue, or Boulevard. So that is what is being proposed today. I guess at this point, we'll be happy to answer any questions. I believe the developer can kind of explain his rationale for some of those changes, and that's all I have.
Thank you, Brad. I'd now like to invite Andy Dumke, owner of North Point Development, to address the modifications that have been proposed to the plan.
Thank you. Our original proposal for the townhouses was, I'm not sure if everybody had the opportunity to look at our unit mix. Out of the proposed maximum of 89 units, we wanted to put in there 20% of the units having 3 bedrooms. And that's just a scoring criteria for when we apply for these credits, and one of the programs that we would apply for. And at the time when we originally developed the plan, we can't punch new holes into the school. We have to use existing entrances that currently exist. So we have since, we needed those townhouses originally to make sure we could get at least 20% of the units have 3 bedrooms and individual entrances. And Jonathan worked through a plan that we can accommodate that in the existing school, so we were able to eliminate those townhouses. And I guess, as a whole, we're trying to listen to the neighborhood and work with everyone south of the school so that, I think what's proposed here, everything south of the school being single-family owner-occupied homes and 4+ acres that we're hoping the city will take for a park. I don't think anybody's going to propose anything less than than we're proposing. So I'm trying to get to the point where maybe the discussion is just around the school itself. And then I don't know if anybody has questions on the affordable housing, but there's a lot of misinformation that's been thrown around here about the program itself that I'd love to answer. One of them is the program does not allow transient housing, student housing, homelessness. It's 100% not allowed in the program, so that's most definitely some misinformation. And then also, as part of what we're doing is that in a lot of these developments, you have 30% set-asides, 40%, 50, 60, 70% set-asides. We're willing to say that our proposal, if approved, is limited to 50, 60, and 70% set-asides. So what that means is that the fair market rents that HUD publishes are below the rents that we would be charging. So somebody with a voucher would not qualify to live here. there's maybe 4 units that could qualify at the 50% level on a 3-bedroom would be the maximum it could be. And the waiting list for those vouchers, I checked with Winnebago County today, is 700 people waiting to get a voucher. So the likelihood of any Section 8 vouchers being in this development is minimal to none. I just want to do a little research on that because we normally don't have Section 8 vouchers, and I wanted to address that question. I don't know if anybody else has.
Are there any other questions? Alderman Boyette.
Thank you, Mayor. Excuse me. I'd like to just ask you on that last statement. It's been said that it's not Section 8, it's Section 42?
Correct, yep.
Okay. So, so Section 8 is the voucher.
Yep.
And this, you're saying that this will not have any voucher. This will not be Section 8.
The development itself will not have any vouchers. We will not have any.
So there will be
An
zero Section 8.
individual it's legally, everybody that rents a housing unit has to take a Section 8 voucher if they qualify. So if an individual has a Section 8 voucher, they can come and apply to live here. And we cannot deny them based on them having a voucher. But in order to have those vouchers, there's still a maximum amount of rent that you can pay because the government basically pays for a good part of their rent. And so there's a maximum amount of rent that somebody could pay and use a voucher, and our rents are over that is what I'm trying to say. Because we're in the 50, 60, 70% set aside. If we were in the 30, 40% set aside, then vouchers, particularly 30 vouchers would work. But we're not a project-based Section 8, which means there's nothing that's tied to our building.
But to what you just said is, if someone came to you, you would not be able to deny that, and you would indeed have to take a Section 8 voucher applicant.
If our rent is above what they can take for rent.
So maybe they find another way to subsidize it. I don't know. I'm just saying, in generally speaking, because that seems to be a big fear for the residents.
Yep.
And you're saying no, 42, but then
so if you go to
also said, well, potentially if A, B, and C all fall into place, yes, Section 8. So that's what I'm just trying to make sure.
Nope,
that we're on the same page.
I understand the question, and the rents that I had supplied from the beginning, that's on WIDA's website, and then the rents that are part of the HUD voucher program that are on HUD's website, you can look those up and see that our rents are above what they're allowed to pay. If that makes sense. I hope I'm answering that question. Mm-hmm. I'm giving that with a caveat that right now the rents on, if there was maybe 4 or 5 3-bedroom units in the 50% set aside that could qualify for vouchers. That's the way it stands today. That would be, and that's if, again, that would be the maximum they could rent there. And that's if everybody showed up with a voucher, which isn't going to happen. And I do want to put one other qualification out there when I'm saying this. There is one other, so it's hard because this program has a whole bunch of different grants and different things you can apply for. There's one grant that I'd want to apply for, and it's called Home Funds. And basically it's a low interest, and telling you more than you want to know. But if I put one unit at a 30% set aside for veterans, it's a grant that I would apply for, and if I got it, I would want to put one unit at 30%, and it'd be set aside for veterans, and that's all I have to do is one unit. So again, I'd be happy to put this in this approval process that maximum of one unit at 30% set aside, and 25% of the units at 50, 50% of the units at 60, and another 25% of units at 70. It's called an income averaging. It's not your typical Section 42 housing that most people read about. It's a new program that the IRS came out with a couple years ago that we've been doing.
Okay, thank you.
Yep.
Question, John?
Yeah, I'm sorry. Yeah, quite a bit of the discussion and some concern is what may happen in the rest of the building that's not apartments. And in the last 10 days, 2 weeks, there's been some things that sound kind of exciting to me, like if Parks and Rec did some programming there, or if the auditorium were refurbished and we could have concerts or plays, or neighborhood association, or I think somebody mentioned a senior center, or is that a possibility, or what would that look like?
Yep. I mean, our goal with those common areas, that the more common areas that we commit to different community development, from the auditorium to the 2 gyms, the fewer number of units we would have to do. So what we're proposing is a maximum number of 89 units. If we can work something out with the city or some other programs that can take some of those spaces, then we can actually we'll have to lower the number of our units, because this 89 units is as if we're taking the whole old gym, opening it up, doing that, what Jonathan mentioned, which would be super cool. But the more program space that we can work with the community on, we've talked to some other nonprofits that are interested in it as well, the fewer number of units that we'd have to do. But that is a good point that some gentleman brought up, is that space that we have to figure out. And so, because you still got to heat it, you still have to insure it. And so, but the more program space that we can get there and have the city or some other nonprofits take, the fewer number of units we'll have to put into the project.
The reason I ask is that multiple people have said working together we can make amazing things, and I could see some pretty cool stuff in there if it's daycare or the neighborhood association or senior center or, okay, thank you.
Alderman Hillstrom.
Thank you, Mayor. Andy, a lot of people seem to be concerned about drug dealers. Could you go over again for everybody what your background checks are? And then also go into the security measures that you would have in the Shattuck building?
Yep. As far as security measures, we do put up cameras throughout the property. Everybody's on a swipe card system, a key card fob system, so nobody can enter the building, including any of the common areas. We do typically do a gym and some different spaces, so only a resident can enter this space without access from so a visitor can't enter without help from the resident. And then as far as the selection criteria, I do believe I went through this, but basically every single applicant has got to show proof of a government ID, social security number, and for anybody that's a minor under 18, they have to show birth certificates. Any applicant that's been evicted in the last 3 years is automatically denied. Any applicant that owns another landlord money is denied unless they can show proof that it's been dismissed. Any first-time renter that doesn't have a minimum of a 2-year rental history would have to get an approved cosigner that meets all of this criteria. I mean, this is a couple pages of criteria. I'm just hitting a couple highlights here. Any applicant that has got a credit report that's got an open bankruptcy would be denied unless, again, they can show proof of dismissal. Any applicant that's been convicted of manufacturing, distributing, or controlled substances as defined in Section 102 of the Controlled Substance Act will be denied. Federal sex offenders will be denied. And I am committing to this because we do it on every single property. Every one of these tenants' background checks will be checked once a year upon their lease renewal. And the minimum we do, because it can't be transient houses, is 1-year leases. And upon each renewal, that criminal background check is checked. It's part of our requirement.
Thank you.
Alderman Lundrum.
Thank you, Mayor. Andy, can you please touch on your hope for the 55 and up? And I know you can't promise that, but can you at least talk about it?
Yep. So as far as the number of units and the senior, I mean, what I'm trying to do initially is not back myself into a corner, because what I don't want to do is purchase this building and 2 years later or 3 years later it's sitting there vacant and I can't figure out what to do with it. So everything that I'm proposing in the building itself hopefully is what everybody here would perceive as worst case scenario. If we can put it in the program and make it a 55 and senior, I would commit to doing that. It's just, again, this is a long process. This will take a whole year to get this whole thing through and figure out exactly where our sources are coming into our capital stack to make this project work. Because again, it's going to cost way more than it's ever going to financially make sense. So really the only way to make this happen is through a bunch of different programs piling in money to make this development happen. And if we can do senior 55 and older, I would commit to that we will do that. So, yep.
Alderman Skirms?
Just to follow up, prior to that, or if that doesn't happen, people over 55 are not prohibited.
Correct. Yep. Yep.
Right,
It only
just
works one
checking.
way.
I gotta find a place for, yeah, okay.
And there will be a lot of people that are over 55 that live in this development.
Is that a
If it's
common,
family.
if
Yep.
you look at your other
Yep.
property, I could, yeah.
And again, I mean, if you look at the unit mix, because a lot of, I think there's some misunderstanding there too. If you look at our unit mix, again, as far as density, if we did do the maximum number of units, and we can make this part of the approval, that if this was the change, we'd have to come back through this whole process, is we'd commit to 38 of the units being 1 bedrooms, 33 of the units being 2 bedrooms, and only 18 units being 3 bedrooms.
Alderman Steiner?
So just piggybacking a little bit on Alderperson Skirm's comments about the space in the middle and the potential of working with the city on some different options. Maybe there's a question also for community development as well, but when would those determinations happen? What would be the steps in terms of deciding, looking at different options of utilizing that internal space that's not being utilized by apartments?
So we have had conversations with our Park and Recs department about programming with the heightened security in our school system. It's becoming more difficult to utilize school space, both for that reason and obviously their programming takes priority. So there have been conversations to that effect. I think those become much more focused once we understand exactly what spaces are available and able to be used. So I believe as we looked at floor plans for the project, one of them may affect locker space, shower and locker spaces. So that affects the ability to program certain things. Without them, it becomes a little bit more of a challenge. So until we have those answers, I don't think we have an ability to really get that focused. As I have mentioned to the council, I'm very optimistic that there is a way, based on my conversations with Mr. Dumpke and with our Parks and Rec department, that there will be a way that we can figure this out to be able to bring programming to this site, both to the benefit of Mr. Dumpke and, in my case, more importantly, to the city.
Just one other question. So if there's not a zoning change, from your perspective, what happens at your end? So if this does not move forward, I'm just interested in hearing what the next steps for you would be.
I mean, my hands are tied because I can't go forward acquiring this without at least a minimum of what I'm proposing. So I'm assuming the process would be to go back to the school district and they'd have to find some other developer to, come up with another plan.
Thank you.
Yep.
Alderman Erickson?
Thank you, Mayor. I have several questions for you, so please bear with me. Piggybacking on Alderman Steiner's question, he said, if we vote no on this, you said that you'd have to go back to the school district. Many of the residents have requested that they would like more time. Not to say that you are not the best fit for this, but they'd like some more time to really figure this out. If we decided to table it and come back to it in a few months, does that mean you are going to walk away from it, or will you still be part of this conversation if we need some additional time to handle this?
It's a tough question to answer. I don't really like dressing up, and this is about the last outfit I have that's fancy that I can wear. So I've been here a lot. But I don't know if the school district would do that because the way our contract reads, I have to make a decision by December 15th. So that's as much of a question for them as it is me. But we've got to limit it. We only do a couple of these deals around the state each year, and we have to get our ducks in a row to put these applications together because they're literally like this thick and a ton of brain damage. So, I mean, most likely, if it doesn't move forward today, I would just move on with some other developments where we'd have to move to the front of the table and see what we can do. With that being said, if it's sitting here 2 years from now, and I have an open spot to put in an application. I'm not saying I'd walk away forever, but in the short term, I'd probably have to move forward with some other developments.
Okay. My next question is, and I just want to clarify, I just want to go through point by point that we are all on the same page here. As presented, and the reason I want to go through this is I know this is really small, and many of you are having a difficult time seeing this from where your vantage point is, even though I have it on my screen. I just want to make it crystal clear that we are on the same page. You will be eliminating the townhomes and the apartments. Is that correct?
The duplexes, correct, yep.
Duplexes, correct? Yep. What is the anticipated cost of the lots and homes that will go in all of those residential areas?
I'm anticipating a lot, probably being maybe $75,000. And with cost of construction right now, it's so high. These will probably be $250,000, $350,000 houses at a minimum, just because you really can't build for anything less than that right now.
Okay, I had a conversation today with one of the neighbors, and they were fearful that somebody would purchase one of these lots and then turn it into a rental. Is there anything that would prevent that from happening?
I can't prevent that. Just like anybody that owns a house here across the street, they can rent out their home. But most likely on something that costs that much to build, it'd be pretty hard to find something that makes any financial sense to make it a rental.
Okay.
And, everyone's concerned about this is going to be a trashy area with this development. Well, I'm also investing in trying to put all these single-family homes here. So this isn't just to, turn and burn something. I'm invested in, I believe in this project enough that we're willing to commit to putting in all these single-family lots and be able to sell those.
Okay.
If that makes sense what I'm saying.
My next question is, the question came up whether or not you are in this for the long haul. What is your commitment to this development if we decide to go forward?
Well, for starters, as far as the tax credits, we sell the tax credit, again, it's to like a bank or a syndication, and I'm committed to them for 15 years. So as part of my developer's agreement with the tax credit investor, I'm in it for a minimum of 15 years. And my intention beyond that is to never sell these, is to stay in them, my kids or whoever would be in them. So, I'm in it for a minimum of 15 years.
Okay.
Just as a requirement outside of, it's just part of the program.
Okay. I might have a few more, but that's it for right now. Okay. Thank you.
Thank you. And I want to apologize about some of the misinformation regarding the development south of the school. I was so focused on the school and every other time I spoke that I do believe part of the misinformation is on me because everybody thought these were going to be rental units, and they're somehow, I don't know how that got missed in the process, but never our intention from the beginning as far as any of the single family lots were they going to be rental units.
Alderman Skirms.
Just a quick one. So what square footage is a house on one of these lots? Ballpark.
2,500.
Thank you.
I don't know, Jonathan. 1,800 to 2,500.
Okay.
Alderman Boyette.
I'd like to follow up on something that Alderman Erickson had asked. You said that that you're going to be selling the lots and then their individual homes. I've heard, and I'm going to ask you because you're the horse's mouth, are those properties going to be HOA?
We'll be required to put something together because of the private drive, the neighborhood. So there'll be an overall cost sharing of that private drive with the neighbors. So we'll have to have some document with the development. Yep.
So will it be an HOA?
I'd say yes. Yep.
So in an HOA, you could put a provision to not allow them to be rented.
I've never been asked that question, so I don't know. But again, I just wouldn't even feel right doing that. That'd be like you buying a single-family house and saying you can't ever rent it to somebody.
Well, to my knowledge, I lived in Florida. We called it Disney property. Yep. HOA. You had to get permission for the flowers you planted in your yard, right down to the color of your mailbox. That's an HOA. So I'm wondering what type of opportunity you have to Tammy's question, allow rentals or allow a homeowner to rent that property. Because I think that's a big fear in the neighborhood as well.
I don't know. Brad, if you got any thoughts on, I mean, most of it's going to be subject to what the city's asking for as far as what our restrictions are when we come through the next stage, but I'm just not familiar with any single-family homes that have that, so.
Well, then, if you're not the right person to ask that question to, how about Dr. Hayes? Do you have an answer for that?
You can put a restriction, any type of restriction you want in an HOA. The question will be, is it enforceable? And that question I can't answer.
And who would be able to answer that?
It would probably have to go to an attorney.
Okay. Can I ask our
But I'm not
attorney
sure
that question?
But again, the fear of those homes being rented, it's going to cost at least 300-some thousand for a home.
And I understand that. I
Yeah.
totally get that.
Yeah.
I'm just asking the hypothetical. I mean, I don't have a crystal ball, and I'm just trying to get answers. That's
Yeah.
all.
It is a very hypothetical question, Alderman Boyette, and it would be something you need to look into further. But HOAs are very common, as you must know, through many of the subdivisions, even in our city. And so, but what provisions can and can't be included, we need to look into that. I've never heard of one that would prohibit completely the rental of a single-family home. So that's where it gets into the question of enforceability. But it's usually more of the things that you were talking about, colors of shingles and colors of,
Certain
siding
plants
and things like
flowers
that.
and et cetera.
what happens with the lawn and the sidewalk and so on and so forth.
Thank you.
Alderman Skirms?
Sorry, I'm hogging the mic here. Comment on a question. There's no restrictions on renting a home anywhere in the city, is there? And if I were going to buy a lot and build a house, I don't know that I'd pay that kind of money if I had that prohibition. But that's just me. And there are homes in the neighborhood now that are rented. I think that would be an excessive request, but that's just me. But the question I have is the covenant, the deed, could you describe how that would work? Because I think one of the issues that came up from the neighborhood all along is neighborhood fit. And some of the initial drawings of homes that went up was like, oh my gosh, that's ghastly. I don't want that.
Yep.
And the next version was a little better, but it's still ghastly.
Yep.
Is there an opportunity for these people to have a say-so or a advisory group to say, earth tones are fine, but I don't want pink or purple, or these building materials are fine, or everybody's got to have a tree in the front yard? How big can you make that, and how would you do that?
Again, I think that is a little bit of a question that we'd have to work through with Chris and
Right.
Brad on, how much participation
Right.
the community can put in, but we'd certainly be open to it as far as the developer. I mean, I think we all I'm going to want what the neighbors want out of this development, is for it to fit in and for people to want to build a house here. And And so as far as, you know, there is differences of opinions. Like, I think this backyard, the back garage access is pretty cool. And I've had a lot of complaints about it, saying that people would rather see the garage on the street. You know, if that even came forward, I'd agree to do that. But it's just a matter of an opinion of
No,
what
I'm
everybody
speaking more
likes.
of the architectural.
Yep, 100% architectural. We'd be open to, you know, having some committee to sit down and
Influence.
talk about it, and
Okay,
we all
thank you.
brainstorm and figure it out.
Thank you.
Alderman Lundrum.
Thank you, Mayor. I might be able to help with the idea that somebody could buy one of these houses and rent them out. I'm a landlord. I have several homes, and we have a 1% rule. And so if, I would assume costs will be high by then. So I'm going with the 350,000 because I'm seeing way higher now for new homes. And so we have a 1% rule for return on investment. So that would mean if I bought one and I wanted to rent it out, which never in a million years would I make that disastrous financial decision, because I would need $3,500 a month in rent. And even in New York, I don't think you can get that kind of rent. So that's not something an intelligent landlord would do. It just doesn't make any sense. You're not going to make any money doing that. And you're not going to get any tenants because no one's going to pay $3,500.
Agreed.
Alderman Hillstrom.
Yeah. Just to clarify, going back to the gym and possible use by the park department and maybe the cafeteria or whatever, the auditorium, that would be open to all citizens, correct? Not just people renting the
Correct.
building?
That would be a program that the Parks Department would put on, and it'd be open to
Okay. So if
whoever
there'd be
their clientele.
pickleball or be able to walk in the winter or whatever would
Correct.
fit in there? So,
Yep.
Okay, thank you.
Are there any further questions for Andy Dumke?
There may be more once we get a motion on the.
Okay.
Item number 2, Commission recommends council approve ordinance number 2022-21, approving the master development plan for the Shattuck Middle School site and rezoning for the property from R1 Single Family Residence District to the Traditional Neighborhood Development District, and I so move.
There's a motion by Alderman Steiner. Seconded by Alderman Lundrum. I would like to just clarify for those in attendance that Robert's Rules of Order require a motion and a second on an item to allow for discussion on that item. So Alderman Steiner has made that motion and seconded it. And now there can be open discussion on that recommendation of the Plan Commission. Alderman Lundrum.
Thank you, Mayor. I'm hoping you don't have a mute button. I have quite a bit I'd like to say. I'd like to start out with, to the resident who eloquently spoke about us not making enough money, thank you. But we do not do it for the $10 a day. And I mean $10 a day after taxes, not $10 an hour. This is basically volunteer. And for anyone who thinks we are not listening to you, really, that's all we've been doing. And I know I'm not supposed to speak for other people, but I know that's all we have been doing. We do hear you. We hear all of our residents all the time. This is new in that this has caused a lot of angst but we always listen to our residents. Then we begin the due diligence. I know the fear and anger that you have. I have a house that I love right there, right by the track. I watched 4th of July sitting on the bleachers, and I ran the track. I still own the house. I love the house, and I will be moving back after I retire. So you can believe that I was very interested in this project because it will directly affect me. And I was afraid too in the beginning. And I can't tell you how many phone calls and meetings and questions to Andy Dumke. Thank you. I feel much better. I have done everything to prepare for those unwanted scenarios to make sure that they don't happen. North Point has also listened to me, to us, and given back a large chunk of green space, which we asked for. We also asked for reducing the number of rental units, and I'm speaking as a resident too, in the school, and even remove the rental townhouses to make room for the most requested item from the neighbors, which is single-family homes. I'm also a longtime landlord and know exactly what questions to ask Andy Dumke, and I asked him. And he answered all of my tenant concerns. Alderman Steiner visited the North Point's Oshkosh development, talked with the property manager himself about their tenant vetting concerns on top of what I had already asked. He was very satisfied with that. He also called the development beautiful. I have studied, as we all have, all the numbers, statistics, emails from all of you. Our voice boxes are full. This morning, I spent an hour with an angry neighbor on Elm. My house is also on Elm. I told her every single detail about the plans because that's how long it takes to talk to a resident. It's an hour, each resident. So I am sorry I could not call back all of you. There aren't that many hours in a day. I have 3 jobs. As all the rest of us do, we have jobs we have to go to. So I apologize for only getting back to some of you. We read every email and we listened to every voicemail, every text. I just couldn't do it all. Anyway, so this morning I spent an hour with a very angry neighbor on Elm. I told her every single detail about the plans. An hour later, she hung up happy and relieved, as I was. As I said, I have a house over there, and I'm not going to jeopardize my own house and the safety and value of our neighborhood. Your neighborhood, my neighborhood. I called Neenah's biggest and most respected developer about this plan. And he said, Carrie, this is the best and highest use for this property, and no one would be able to develop it without an apartment building, not even me. So I'm not going to do anything to compromise our neighborhood, and I'll be voting yes for the rezoning tonight. Thank you.
Alderman Stevenson.
Yeah, thank you, Mayor. I don't have a job. I'm retired, Gary. Unless you count the crossing guard that I got to do tomorrow morning. So along with the Gladfelter paper mill, this Shattuck transition is the largest example of functional obsolescence the city has been challenged with during my time here on the council. This property truly is like no other I've worked with in my time here. Unlike Gladfelter, this property has a 0 tax value baseline. and you'll hear more about that later. The High Point development appears to be borderline capitalized, in my opinion, and in fact, from what I can see, is likely undercapitalized, given the comments I hear from Andy. I need to understand those financing options better. I have concerns about the very fluid nature of the development plans. While the most recent reductions in the number of rental units being proposed, I'm sure, was to help appease the neighborhood, it only adds to my concerns about High Point's ability to cash flow this project. Add to that the fact that only approximately 40% of the Shattuck building will be redeveloped with revenue producing apartments, leaving the other 60% undeveloped. I have major concerns on where the dollars will come to maintain that underdeveloped, unrevenue producing 60%. Now, there have been some 11th hour discussions about the city utilizing some of this 60% space for various programs, and I would love to see the details on that. And to quote Andy tonight, if we can work something out with the city. But I also believe we need to understand who and how this open space will work before we allow it to be rezoned. Who will own it? Who will maintain it? Same is true in the open parkland. The parkland size open space area ebbs and flows and gets bigger and gets smaller, gets moved to loud, and I have yet to hear a commitment from the Park and Recreation Commission that this is something that meets their long-range plan. So what does that do? What's the detail of that going to be? We really should know that before we rezone the property. If it's something we want to do, that's fine. That's great. But we should know that before we allow the rezoning to take place. Now, TIF is the greatest redevelopment tool available to municipalities. Since the talk of this redevelopment has begun on this project, I have assumed and have publicly asked what level of TIF involvement from the city will be needed to overcome any functional obsolescence. Conversations I had with Director Hayes, I asked why TIF assistance wasn't being utilized, and he was honest with me. He said because none was being asked for, and that's typically a conversation that, as community development works with developers, the first thing that comes out of a developer's mind is, how much money can I get from the city? But again, my first comment, this is one of the two highest functionally obsolete properties I've dealt with in my 30-plus years on the Common Council. And I'm also aware of the fact that residential development causes unique challenges to redevelop utilizing tools like TIF. Yesterday, Director Hayes provided 3 different scenarios involving TIF participation potential from this council. While I would like to have seen these proposals or these discussion points a while back, there is enough evidence that TIF participation would or could enhance the viability and the stability of the capitalization of this project at this site. I, too, have received an unprecedented amount of communication from all over the world concerning this. And Ms. Krampitz, I did respond to you less than 3 hours after I received your email. So check your inbox. I don't share the concerns of the neighborhood regarding traffic concerns, plummeting property values. Someone used the term, this project will destroy our city. It's going to ruin the city of Neenah. Now, I don't buy that. I've seen enough multifamily development to know that those are scare tactics. So it's not because that I have a strong passion for an R1 project on this site that I intend not to support the rezoning request at this time, but rather I have an even stronger desire to ensure that an inevitable transition project on this site is developed with council input, with full and promised transparency to the neighborhood, and most importantly, with financial stability to ensure long-term success. City involvement with helping overcome functional obsolescence need to be considered before we rezone, not after hoping we can get an agreement. So this project, this will not be green space once it's closed and within a rational period of time. And there are probably other people out there who are now willing to talk to the school district about this. I think we should give that opportunity, those others an opportunity. I think we should vote no today and continue discussions with High Point regarding what financial assistance. Now understand, I'm saying the city needs to become more involved, utilizing redevelopment opportunities that we have available to us, maybe in exchange for programming rights within the gymnasium or programming rights in the auditorium. But we haven't had those discussions. We really need to do that before we move forward.
Alderman Weber?
Thank you, Mayor. I'm not going to be as eloquent as Alderperson Stevenson or Alderperson Lendrum. I'm the newest member of the council. You know, I've been on the council not 30 years, but, you know, less than 6 months. And to be honest, when this first came about, I knew nothing about it because I was just starting on the council. And when all the discussions started and I listened to the staff, I listened to the initial proposals, I was in favor because I do trust that our staff and I do trust that our council, it has the best interest of all the citizens in mind. And one thing I'd like to say is thank you to the majority of the people that have been very professional in their commentary and their communications, et cetera. And it's a shame that there's some people that haven't, you know, taken that responsibility to be professional in their manner. But thank you to all those that have spoken eloquently. My intuition is we haven't gone through all of the scenarios and gone through all of the what ifs, what could be. Again, I'm coming up to speed very fast on all of this, but I feel like I've heard from so many people. I've talked to my council members and, you know, gotten their, you know, guidance because they've been through this. I've not been through something like this. But my intuition says we haven't stepped back and taken a look at everything. So because of that, I'm going to be voting no. Thank you.
Alderman Borchert?
First, thank you, Chris and Brad and all of City Development for the work on this, as well as High Point. Had I not been an alderman and in the trenches, North Point. You said High. Todd keeps saying
Todd's
High Point.
fault. I apologize. I'm sorry.
That's right.
I can't read my own writing.
Had I not been an alderman, I probably wouldn't really understand all that goes into the development. And I guess I've been using the term how the sausage is made. And there's a lot to it, and there's a lot of hours and stuff put on that. When I first looked at this plan, I was not a fan of only using 40% of the building. The other 60% didn't have a plan until probably a few weeks ago. Now conversations with Park and Rec have maybe some options of using, but really no definitive numbers and costs to us or budget lines. The city's use of that, some of that 60% may significantly impact the culture of this development. One question I've asked of community development was, how different was the timeline of this project than any other recent development project? Because there was a lot of questions about this is being rushed through and whatnot, and was given that essentially it's the same process that we've followed for a lot of these development projects. My concern that this project of this magnitude, though, knowing the impact that all of you have shared and how much you would be concerned about, we probably maybe should have sought that and understood that and started that process of collaboration at a sooner process. I've listened to the citizens, as everyone else has, through emails and concerns of phone calls, grocery store conversations, and those types of things that went on. So, you know, many wanted the green space to remain, and North Point made sure that those concessions were made. There are concerns about the housing density and the style of the apartments. North Point has removed the multifamily unit builds from the plan. There was concern about the amount of density in the apartments, so when we talked about moving from 100 down to 89. So to say the city hasn't been listening and they have been working with the citizens would be inaccurate. And I want to make sure that the integrity of the people on this council and those that are working for aren't called to question without facts based on that, And so being in the trenches, calling out the integrity of the people that work here at City Hall without facts is really disingenuous. So be careful about that. In my conversation with Director Hayes, he stressed there are no guarantees with these types of projects, and he certainly wishes there could be, but they're not. Nor could any of the plans that people have in their minds that what they should be using this for. So understand that just because you want that so desperately, just like everyone wanted a Whole Foods and a Target where Shopko was, doesn't mean that that's a possibility just because you want it. Their role and the city's role is to mitigate the uncertainty as much as possible. I know this plan to rezone, if this plan does today pass and rezone, there's a lot of unfinished work to be done with this project. And the aldermen on this council or in this council will be there working side by side with the city, and I'm hoping with the residents as well, just as they've done with a lot of the other projects that we had. But with that said, I've heard a lot of concerns, and many of you have said, please slow down, take more time. If this is the plan we have when the dust settles, so be it, but I just feel it's rushed, so please slow down. I'll be voting no to rezone this, and I want citizens to believe in the process of government, and if there is a perception that this was rushed, then let's take the time to see this through. The council may have some options to work with the builder and find some middle ground. Perhaps it's a 55 or older, perhaps it's something different, but to several of our colleagues that we just haven't explored a lot of those things and guaranteed those things without much. So with any plan, there will be no guarantees, like I mentioned. And with this plan or anyone you believe that perhaps might be better. At some point, you have to trust those that have as much pride in the city and its future as you do. I want to make sure those that oppose this plan have their time to be heard. I want to eliminate that. I want to reiterate, this is not a plan that was just thrown together. Compromises were made. We may very well be back at this variation of this plan or the exact one at the end of this. Thank you.
Alderman Steiner.
Thank you, Mayor. First, I just want to say that I have a deep respect for everyone that has come out. I appreciate it, for one thing, getting up and publicly speaking in front of everyone. That's not always the easiest thing to do. I made my comments clear at the Planning Commission meeting, and so those are the comments that I stand by. But just because I might disagree with your position doesn't mean that I don't respect you. It doesn't mean that I wasn't listening to you. It just means that we have a difference of opinion. But it's not because of apathy or because I was trying to ignore you. It's just because my perspective is I really do feel like this is truly the best use of the property available. And I think that some of the comments that were made in terms of the extreme of where the development's going to go, I respectfully disagree with those. One question that I do have, is there anything, in terms of some of the comments that Alderperson Stevenson made, as we go, if this were to be rezoned, is there anything that would prevent us from, after that fact, looking at TIF opportunities? Is there anything that would prevent us, after the rezoning, of evaluating these different options?
No.
Thank you.
Alderman Boyette.
Thank you, Mayor. I would like to say thank you to all of you. Your opinions and your voices are important to us. And for those that don't feel that we are listening or we didn't respond to your emails, these are the emails. So congratulations. I printed them. These are the emails. This is why I didn't respond to you and you, because I'm not done reading them yet. So thank you. I appreciate you doing your due diligence and contacting your representatives and going through the process. It means a lot to us because we know you're paying attention.
Is there anyone else who has a question or comment? Alderman Skirms.
Thank you, Mayor. We've all thought about this quite a bit, and it's been front of mind. I want to say up front that I'm grateful for all the input from you. Emails, the letters, the calls, comments. They've been thoughtful. They've been constructive, civil. I think it's an excellent example of how this is supposed to work. Democracy isn't always quiet and easy. So I thank you for that. I truly do. Your comments and thoughts have made a difference in my opinion of this, and I've taken them into consideration. I also want to make note of appreciation for the work of the staff and the Planning Commission. If you looked at the answers, questions, and the research that took place behind to answer your questions, answer our questions, and it's still ongoing. And if I would call the office at 7 or 8 at night, there was usually somebody working on this. So if you didn't get a call back from them in the time frame you would have liked, I'm guessing they were working on this very matter. I understand, I believe, the fear of the neighbors when this was literally dropped on your doorstep. You didn't see it coming, we didn't. If we had owned the property, this would have been different. If the school district had done X, Y, and Z, this would be different. Unfortunately, this is where we are and this is how we got. I want to piggyback on Alderman Brian, your comment about this is the process. Someone requests zoning change. The planning group looks at it, evaluates, makes a recommendation. The timing of that is once we find out about it, we economic development, it is scheduled at the next regularly scheduled meeting. After they make a recommendation, it shows up here. That's why it's here tonight. This isn't rushed, although it feels like it, because, oh my God, this has huge implications. But this is the way the process works. Good or bad, that's why we're here where we are. I understand your fears and concerns. Density, traffic, safety, green space, property value, neighborhood fit. If you filter through that stack of emails, add the text, and the phone calls, that's what I think it becomes. Now, if anyone were to listen to these public forums, they've been recorded, you can do that. They would conclude that nearly everyone opposes the development. This isn't the case. Many in the neighborhood don't agree with the narrative we've heard here. Some of that being people intimidated, not feeling welcome, whatever. But I've gotten many emails, phone calls of people living directly in the neighborhood who are in support of this plan. So many of you haven't heard this. I'm sure several on the council have not heard this. I want to share just a few examples, sort of fill in the picture of what their concerns are and what they're maybe excited about. I've seen the positive impact that affordable rental housing can have on the financial stability of a family. I understand the need to utilize the building so it doesn't turn into an unsavory, possibly dilapidated, dangerous, empty building. I appreciate background checks for new tenants. The school could be used possibly for a community center. Using the school property for single-family homes will increase rather than decrease property value. What's wrong with developing single-family homes up and down Reed, Lawton, and Elm? Everyone I've spoken with is all in for that, which I think is what Andy has come up with at this point after listening to you. It's a good idea repurposing the building and maybe making apartments for older people. A great idea to improve our neighborhood. Our community will only be stronger when people have a place to work and live. I strongly encourage you to vote in favor of redistricting the Shattuck property so that we can expand our housing options in Neenah and make this a more welcoming community for all individuals and families. As a Neenah resident who lives right across the street from the school, I see this as a wonderful opportunity for investing in our neighborhood. North Point has brought forth a solid plan, one that reflects the character of the neighborhood while addressing a critical need, affordable housing. I firmly believe the responsible decision is to continue with the rezoning. I, for one, support providing affordable housing options that allow those who live in the development the opportunity to enjoy the amazing quality of life we enjoy in this neighborhood. I'm writing you to support the Shattuck redevelopment plan. I live across the street and have as much stake in this as those of my neighbors who oppose the plan. It seems that the argument of the opposition is that renters are undesirable neighbors. It seems to me that it's more undesirable to be the neighbor of a poorly managed rental property. North Point has not given me any reason to think their property will be poorly managed. And finally, I'm encouraging you to vote for the redistricting of the Shattuck School property. I personally know people who will benefit from this. A widow who wants to downsize, a college grad who wants to move out of his parents' house, and his parents do too, a married couple expecting their first child, and a clerk working long hours but still can't afford to rent in the city she works. The proposed mix of income limits for the apartments will allow people from many walks of life an equal opportunity to have a decent place to live. So for these people and the previous reasons, I'm in favor of this development plan. I believe the concerns of the neighborhood have been addressed by North Point, probably not to your complete satisfaction, but they've been addressed. The density has been reduced significantly as requested. The area south of school is all single-family homes, as requested. Reduction in density will create more parking, less traffic. The 4 acres of green space is more accessible and available for neighborhood use. Remember, initially, we didn't know if we could use it, if it was going to be private for just the development. The extensive vetting of tenants combined with income and work requirements and on-site management offers assurance of a safe building. Finally, the single-family homes will be deed restricted with specific architectural standards consistent with the neighborhood, and I hope you would have a say-so in that. I've been a part of this community for 26 years, and I, like you, love this city. I want what is best, not only for the Shattuck neighborhood, but also for the city. I believe North Point Development Plan can serve both. Thank you.
Are there any further questions or comments? Alderman Erickson.
Thank you, Mayor. I have truly struggled with this decision. I have lived in this community for 60 years. I went to Wilson School. My husband went to Wilson School. I went to Shattuck. My husband went to Shattuck. I played tennis on the Ivy Williams courts. I am part of this community. I understand where you're coming from. And I understand that this property will no longer remain the same no matter what we want. It will not be the same. Change has to happen here. The property is for sale. My hope is that we can do something that will be a positive change for this area. I'm not saying that North Point development is not what we need. I'm just saying that maybe we need a little bit more time to look at this. I'm saying that we need to pin this down, get everything, all of our ducks in the row. My hope is that North Point stays in the game and we can just look at this closer. One thing that really bothers me, though, is I'm part of this community. I am a substitute teacher and I work long hours. And every single person on this council and on the staff are professional. We do not need to be having vitriol discussion about what we are listening to and what the comments and the swearing that have come through my emails. Our community can do better. We need to do better. We are all trying to do our best for our community, and that is not what is the best. We need to do better. We should be proud of our city. We should know that our city council is doing the best we can with the information that we have, and that we need to teach our kids that you need to respect people. They are trying their best. They have their heart and their mind on this, and we are trying our very best. I have struggled with this decision for a long time. I have friends that live in this area. I have friends who are opposed to it. I have friends who are I'm for it. And my decision is based on my gut reaction of what's going to happen here. I think we need to take one step back, get everything in writing, and for that reason, I'm going to oppose it, but I'm not saying that it's not a good plan. I'm just saying we need to get everything in place. And if we go forward with that, we need to show respect to everyone who is participating in this process. And that's my comment.
Is there anyone else who would like to ask a question or make a comment or a statement? Definitely want to give all the aldermen the opportunity to voice their opinion. Alderman Hillstrom.
I think we already know how the vote's going this evening. I'll make a few comments. You know, my stack of emails is a little bigger than Kathy's. You know, I've read them once, most of them twice or three times, so, you know, I do my share of listening. And you can ask community development how many questions I've asked them. That was at least 3 pages worth of questions on this issue. And, you know, I'm proud of them responding. I got answers. I'd ask questions on a Saturday, I'd get responses. I'd ask questions on a Sunday, I'd get responses. That's the kind of dedicated people we have on our staff in the city. So, you know, for them to take some criticism from some of you is really annoying. I think North Point has been listening to you, have obviously made changes we've talked about this evening. They've talked the park property that is now up to 4.1 acres. That's larger than the park property in new subdivisions we have at Castle Oak or Liberty. You know, those are 3 acres and 2.68, I think. So that's a very gracious and kind thing of North Point to do. Todd, I actually lived in High Point, North Carolina for a time, so.
That's where I got it.
So, you know, it's about North Point tonight. You know, talking about seniors, we heard Dr. Pfeiffer talk about how the clinic, the school clinic would be available to people living in the apartment building. We heard a little bit about Parks and Recreation wanting to negotiate something for the building, but none of that's happened because the zoning hasn't passed. There's no reason to spend hours doing that until this passes or fails. So the Park and Rec Commission has talked about the land and are okay with that coming to the, you know, if that happens. That all depends on this vote and what's negotiated in the future. These people living in their single-family homes, they have a park in their backyard. It's awesome. Park that all of you can use. To have this happen in an older part of the city where you get park property that size is just a chance that'll most likely never happen again. So, you know, I hope you appreciate that offer. And, you know, it's, the North Point, he's already said that we're talking $25 to $30 million to redo this building. I'm not sure who else would ever come in and attempt to do that. So, you know, we've also heard from Dr. Fife, or about the, you know, if this doesn't go through and the school's closed, that you're most likely going to immediately see a fence go up around this property. You're probably going to see windows and doors boarded up because they don't want vandalism. You're going to, and the cost to maintain that building is cost of hundreds of thousands of dollars a year that doesn't go to teachers or staff for the school system. So, you know, we're taught on the council to look at the future. We do that. The plan that the community development talks about is a 2040 plan. So they're going to 2040 on that. I learned very early when I got on the council and not just look at what's happening now, but look 2 or 3 years down the road and look 20 years down the road and how that's going to affect the area and your decision. So we do that constantly. So, you know, I believe this is a good project, and I'll be voting forward for it this evening.
Is there anyone else who would like to ask a question or make a statement? I'll just close this portion of the time then reading my statement. First, I want to take this opportunity to say how grateful I am for our professional staff. You're amazing. Our volunteer Plan Commission members and our elected council members who serve the city of Neenah to the very best of their ability. They are constantly committed to doing their very best to provide their experienced and professional insight into every concern of the city. I'm extremely proud of their solid, process-driven, and straightforward approach to this particular issue. As the duly elected mayor of the city, I can with complete confidence state that this issue has been approached with the highest level of thought, concern, integrity, and appropriateness for all of the residents of Neenah whom we serve. As I have previously expressed my opinion at the Plan Commission meeting last week on the appropriateness of the rezoning request and master plan that is now under consideration, I don't feel it absolutely necessary to reiterate all of those points. In summary, though, for the following reasons I support the proposal. It has been vetted, it has been altered to address and meet the concerns expressed by the neighborhood and the community. The density has been reduced. That was a concern. Open space will be set aside for the community. The multifamily units that were formerly part of the plan beyond the Shattuck building itself have been removed and replaced with single-family lots that will be for sale to anyone interested in purchasing them. The traffic study that was conducted by the city revealed that traffic would not demonstrably or negatively impact the neighborhood, and property values of the neighborhood would not be negatively impacted. There is no good alternative plan before us to consider. Time, in my opinion, will not create a better alternative plan. Again, there are only, as I mentioned at the Plan Commission, there are only 4 qualified developers in the state who are capable of doing this kind of renovation work on a historic property to the level that North Point is suggesting. And North Point is the only local one. The time is now for council members to make a decision. The difficulty of that decision is for each of you individually, and it's not for me to judge how difficult that is for you. I sat on the council for 8 years. I have made the difficult and sometimes seemingly unpopular decisions, and I know it's not easy. The decision tonight has the potential to positively shape this neighborhood for the next generation, and I urge you to support it. And to those of you who have made this effort, who have spent time trying to do what you believe is the right thing for this neighborhood, thank you. I appreciate you. You make our community stronger with your commitment and your passion. We have listened to you. We have taken into full consideration your concerns and questions. My foremost goal as your mayor is to lead the community in the direction that I believe it should move. I want to assure you with the utmost sincerity that I want nothing but the absolute best for this community. This is my hometown, and I am 100% committed to doing everything I possibly can to ensure that our community remains the exceptional place that I have loved for all of my life. My decision to support this issue has arrived after weeks of careful consideration of all the input I have received from you and from our staff. I know that each of the aldermen here have also committed themselves to making the decision that best represents their extensive knowledge of the issue and their insight on the issue, with the goal being the best possible outcome for the citizens of the city of Neenah. Prior to the vote being conducted, I'd like the city attorney to present his opinion on the petition that was received regarding the rezoning.
Thank you, Mayor. As many of you now know, there's been much discussion about petitions and what does that mean and what does that mean under our ordinance and under state statute. And I want to speak a little bit about that just for the record. This zoning application came in by the property owner, the Neenah Joint School District, October 21st. And a little bit more than a month ago, we got a first petition, which was comprised of a number of pages of handwritten, copies of handwritten signatures, and a lot of online signatures. There was a supplement given to us on the 16th of November, but it really had nothing to do with the legal question that I was charged with determining for the council and for the mayor. Then on the 5th of December, 2 days ago, we received a second petition. And then just yesterday, on the 6th, we received a supplement for that second petition. There's a couple of aspects that I think is useful to understand as we think about what is a petition and what does it do. There's two aspects. One is a political one, which I can't concern myself with. I'm not a voter on this council. I'm not one of the 9, and I'm not the mayor. But obviously, you have expressed yourselves in and around this neighborhood as to what you want and why. The other aspect, which does concern me, and the duty that I swore to uphold as city attorney, is what legal impact, if any, do the submissions in the form of petitions have. Under our code of ordinances available to all of you, anybody that has access to a computer, section 26-27 sub B sub 7 relates to protest petitions. And quite simply, it requires, in addition to the percentage of property represented there, which I'll get to in a minute, it requires that any petition submitted be duly signed and acknowledged. And that's where I come in. The first two submissions failed in that regard. There's been comment and or criticism about why you weren't helped out with that. Well, quite frankly, I cannot do that. It would be unethical for me to do so. That's not in keeping with my oath being hired as the city attorney. I did inform the submitters 2 to 3 weeks ago that they could seek legal counsel. I think ultimately they did so. And based on what was submitted yesterday, finally the cumulative petitions did satisfy section 26-27 and the underlying state statute as well. The numbers that have been given to me by Chris Hayes and Brad Schmidt and their staff show that the supermajority required under subsection 7 was met by these cumulative petitions. 22.38%. It only needed to be 20% to force the supermajority vote. But it's worth noting that that is 23 of the 85 properties that are adjacent to the Shattuck neighborhood. So with that said, These cumulative petitions do satisfy the requirement under our ordinance, and therefore a supermajority vote of the council is required to pass this. Thank you.
Thank you for that clarification. And just to clear that up so everybody's fully aware, supermajority vote is required to pass this motion. At this time, unless there are any further questions or comments, I will ask for you to indicate your vote on your voting device. That motion fails 5-4. Wait for that. At that time, we are now concluded with this portion of the meeting. If you're welcome to stay for the continuation of our city council meeting. We'd love to have you stay if you're interested.
A lot of fun.
It's so much fun. Otherwise, we'll just take a short break so that you can exit. Thank you for coming. Is everybody back? Kathy's not back. Alderman Boyette?
Yeah.
Alderman Boyette.
Aging. Kathy. Yeah, right.
Thank you. We will be moving on to item number 3 under the regular Plan Commission meeting of November 29th.
All right. Commission recommends council approve certified survey map number 13-22-515 West North Water Street lot line adjustment, and I so move.
There's a motion by Alderman Steiner. Second.
Yeah, that's fine. That was a second. Whatever you want to put down, start.
Aye.
Hold on.
Any opposed? Next.
There's a motion by Alderman Steiner, seconded by Alderman Skirms. Is there any discussion on this item? All those in favor, vote on your roll call device. That motion passes 9-0.
And that concludes my report.
Thank you for your report. Is there any report from the Community Development Authority?
Mayor, we have to go up, and we have unfinished business up under
Above.
consent agenda.
We skipped.
We're going down because we're still under item number 8. We're going down item number 8.
Okay.
And then we'll go
Good
back.
point. Great.
With that said, I have no report, Mayor.
Thank you. Alderman Borchard, is there a report from Sustainable Neenah Committee?
No report.
Alderman Erickson is, actually, Alderman Steiner, is there a report from the Bergstrom Mahler Museum?
No report.
Alderman Borchert, is there a report from the Park Commission?
Yes, just reporting out real quickly, very quickly, from the November 17th Park and Rec meeting. Last Saturday, we had 75 participants at the Washington Park's 7th Annual Grinch Family Breakfast. Kids had their picture taken with the Grinch and participated in a candy cane hunt. And coming up next, this Saturday, the 3rd Annual Ugly Sweater Shuffle will take place at Fritzie Park. The start time is between 8 and 9. This is a partnership with Fox Crossing, and there is a need for volunteers. So if you're available, please contact the Park and Rec Department. That is the end of my report.
Thank you for your report. So now we'll be moving back to the consent agenda, item number 6. So back on the first page of your agenda. This is an item we have on the agenda as a unanimous consent item, but I'd really like our police chief, if he would, to come and give description of what we're doing in this case for the lobby in the police department.
Thank you, Mayor. I'm pretty sure that everyone here knows who Steve Morton was. And to the police department, he was a very, very important individual. He was an ambassador for our police department. and obviously our city too. Anywhere you go in the city, you can probably see his name on a bench or a park or whatnot. But he served on the police commission from 2008 to 2013 as a commissioner, and then from 8 to 2017, and then from 2017 to 2020 as our president. And when he retired from the police commission, he also became a big donor. If you walk in our department, there's graphs and pictures everywhere, and those were all donated by Mr. Morton. So we're not doing that just because of that. We're doing that because we're creating this lobby in his name because he was such an important person in our police department history. He's probably done more for our police department than anyone that I've met so far. And he was such a great man. It was somebody, if you just watch in a meeting and just study his mannerisms, you could just learn a lot about leadership. You could learn a lot about character. And we just felt it was super important to remember him in some way due to his untimely death this year. And we really thought that creating this memorial in his name for our lobby was the right thing to do. And we asked our department members if anyone was opposed, and obviously they said no. So we brought it to the Public Safety Committee and now to the council.
Thank you for filling us in a little bit more on what was going on. We really appreciate it. We really, we miss Steve Morton and his presence in the community. So I'm very appreciative that you're memorializing the lobby in his memory. Is there any objection to unanimous consent of approving naming the Neenah Police Department lobby the Steve Morton Memorial Lobby effective December 14th, 2022? Seeing none, that is so ordered. Item 7 on the agenda, reports of standing committees, regular Public Services and Safety Committee meeting of November 29th. Alderperson Lendrum.
Thank you, Mayor. Reporting out from the regular Public Services and Safety Committee meeting of November 29th, 2022. Minutes can be found on the city website. We've got a couple items. The first one is a council action item. Committee recommends council approve that the Neenah Police Department participate in the Law Enforcement Agency grant for safer communities to purchase an Apex Officer X2 system, and we'll explain in a little bit what that is, and other training-related equipment not to exceed the grant funding of $75,983.68, with the initial funding coming from the capital equipment reserve funds. And I would so move, and after a second, we'll do a little explanation.
There's a motion by Lendrum, seconded by Alderman Boyette. Alderman Lendrum?
Yes, thank you. This is a grant, and it is the way the police chief described it to us. It is a training tool, and it's wearable. So it is like virtual reality, but emphasis on reality. And some of the training that they can do, just some, with their training accessories of a rifle, pepper spray, pistol, and a taser. So de-escalation is one they can train on, use of force, crisis intervention, active shooter training, mental illness training, suicidal subjects, hostage situations, cultural diversity, other skill building, and disturbances and traffic enforcement. And so this is like a simulator. And apparently it can be programmed in a multitude of ways under many, many different examples of those list of things that I just did. So it's not just one way of dealing with those situations. So that's it. Thank you.
And we get to try it out.
No, we don't get to try it out.
Are there any other questions or comments on this item? Please cast your vote on your voting device. That motion passes 9-0.
And the only other thing I have is an informational item. The committee accepted and placed on file the police department's third quarter statistic reports. Thank you. That's the end of my report.
Thank you for your report. The regular Finance and Personnel Committee meeting of November 28th, 2022. Alderman Erickson.
Thank you, Mayor. Reporting out from the regular Finance and Personnel Committee meeting of November 28th, 2022. Item number 1, the committee recommends council approve resolution 2022-21 approving the Neenah Central City Business Improvement District 2023 operating plan, and I so move.
There's a motion by Erickson, seconded by Alderman Stevenson. Is there any discussion on this item?
Just a comment, the bid board approves this prior, and then the future Neenah board also approves it before it comes.
Thank you for that clarification. Any other questions? Seeing none, please cast your vote on your voting device. That motion passes 9-0.
And that concludes my report.
Thank you for your report. Neenah Menasha Fire Rescue Joint Finance and Personnel Committee meeting of November 22nd. Alderman Borchert.
Thank you, Mayor. Reporting out from that meeting, the committee recommends the council approve the filling of 3 firefighter vacancies created by retirements no earlier than March 1st, 2023, and I so move.
There's a motion by Borchert and a second by Alderman Boyette. Is there any discussion on this item?
Just a real quick clarification as to, you're hearing some of these things. The Neenah Menasha, the fire and rescue, was, I guess, ahead of the game by getting recruits in, and now other departments have found ways to be able to get in front of us. So we're kind of playing this cat and mouse game, and this is just an opportunity for us to make sure we have our pick of the recruits. So we're kind of speeding up the process a little bit more than it has been. So,
thank you for that clarification. Any other
right, Chief?
questions or comments on this item? Seeing none, please cast your vote on your voting device. That motion passes 9-0. Thank you for your report. Moving on to item 9, there are no petitions. Council directives, Alderperson Erickson. Do you want to elaborate on that, or?
Yes. I have commented on this subject many times. I believe that we need to explore the opportunity of having a convenience store gas station on Doty Island. I think that area needs that type of service, correct. So I would like this to be a council directive that we explore what the opportunities are to get that to happen.
And are you making that motion?
I am making that motion. Thank you.
I'll second that motion.
There's a motion by Alderman Erickson, seconded by Alderman Boyette. Is there any discussion on this item? Alderman Stevenson.
Yeah, thank you, Mayor. The council over the last, Chris helped me, 5 years, have had ongoing closed session discussions, I believe, with one potential suitor that would meet this requirement. I don't know, Chris, if I wouldn't expect you to engage in that tonight, but have we had ongoing discussions with that party?
We have on and off. There's obviously been one obstacle, at least an obstacle around that, but we have had conversations. I believe they still have interest.
Okay. So I guess based on that, I'm supportive because it's not going to be real hard to accomplish. We'll be able to get an update from those people, and probably have to do it in closed session because it would involve negotiations. I obviously defer to the city attorney on that.
Alderman, is that it?
Yeah, thank you.
Alderman Boyette?
Yes, thank you, Mayor. I agree with this. I live there, and I have been saying this since that yucky old gas station shut down. If nothing else, I need gas. And I am not the woman that stops and fills my tank up. I get the gas when I need it. And my husband hates me for it, but I've got to have a gas station. So I am 1,000% behind this because my car pulls into the driveway on fumes. We do. We need something with food potentially. We need something with gasoline. And with the new developments going on over there, with the Roosevelt School closing and the hospital building on, I can only imagine that our new ER is going to get more and more busy. And as someone who's been a customer over there with myself and my family at 3 and 4 a.m. and you can't get a cup of coffee and you can't get gas in your car to go to follow the ambulance to Madison or Milwaukee, it's definitely overdue. So if it's not this individual company that we've been engaged with, I don't know, maybe we could send out some feelers to another potential. But I agree with Alderman Erickson. We definitely need to do something.
Any other questions?
I assume the directive is to community development.
Yes.
Police and fire are looking for stuff. I know. I don't.
They're always looking for good donuts.
I mean, they're always hanging around. I don't know.
They know where all the good donuts are.
I didn't say that.
At this time, I'd like you to cast your vote on your voting device. That motion passes 9-0. Is there any unfinished business? Alderman Stevenson.
Yeah, I just remind the council, I did send an email out yesterday or so regarding the council raffle basket.
Pay the man.
If anybody's interested. Brian Borchard does get the award this year for being the first one to pay.
Yep.
What's the award?
Pay the man.
Public
Pay him
recognition.
out, yeah.
Is there any?
He gets to run it next year.
Is there any additional unfinished business? Is there any new business to come before the council? I would just like to again thank all of the council members for your professionalism, for your dedication to this job. It's a hard one sometimes, and just know that I truly appreciate your efforts and applaud you for your professionalism. So thank you. Is there a motion to adjourn?
The chief barely stands up for anybody.
Is there a motion to adjourn?
Oh, you were just leaving.
There's a motion by Erickson to adjourn, seconded by Alderman Boyette. All those in favor of adjourning signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Thank you. We are adjourned.
Broadcasts of the City of Neenah Common Council meetings are produced by University Studios of the University of Wisconsin, Fox Valley. Neenah residents can get information about City Council meetings, City Committee meetings, meeting agendas, and other documents via the City website, www.neenahgov.org. Neenah residents can express their opinions about city issues or about these broadcasts by contacting the mayor's office, contacting their city alderman, or by completing the electronic feedback form on the city website, www.neenahgov.org. All public portions of the meetings are recorded in entirety and are not edited for playback.